Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Good evening, friends. I'm Rick Walker, and this is the Maverick News Channel. You're watching the Freedom Reporters, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hey, everybody. I am semi-back. Not 100% yet, but it's great to be back. Hello, Rick. How are you?
I'm okay. Brendan's been a little under the weather, not feeling well. Took yesterday off. Got a lot of sleep, I think he filled himself full of some vitamins, and I think he's almost hydrated. And and I'm turning my phone off, and yeah, you're not looking the best, but you're a trooper. You are back here today.
Yep, the Rona 19 can't keep me down.
Are you joking, or is that really what it is?
Yeah, that's really what it is.
Okay, well, I guess we'll find out how serious it is.
Yep.
Just don't transmit it through cyberspace to me, because I'd like to stay COVID-free. Thank you.
That's a great thing about our job, eh?
So, and I turned my phone off, so it will take me a little time to dial 911 if you need assistance.
Okay, perfect.
We do have a lot of things to talk about today, but the biggest thing we have is our special guest, Kyle Kemper, the half-brother of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, is going to join us very shortly here on the broadcast. He has a new book that he'll be talking about, and he'll be talking about the freedom movement. And I think he'll probably have some perspectives for us on issues like the NDP Liberal Alliance, or coalition that was announced yesterday, and maybe even things like the situation in Ottawa with the Freedom Convoy, and what we've been seeing go on in places like Calgary, where cops are using some similar tactics to deal with weekend demonstrations in that city.
Now, that certainly was interesting yesterday when that came out with the new NDP Liberal coalition, but I beg to ask the question, how is that any different than what we had already?
Well, I think it is different insofar as it sends a message to the public that the government isn't going anywhere anytime soon. They've made this deal, and I think it's because they know that they're not popular. They have Justin in particular has issues with his public image, which is something else we can talk about here tonight, because we know that even on the international stage, he's being hammered. His reputation internationally is mud right now. He's viewed as a tyrant internationally. About the only people at home who are tolerating his authoritarian measures are the people who like it when he doesn't tolerate regular Canadians. And I think that it's more than that. I think he knows that there is bad news coming down on a number of fronts. We're seeing that they've come up with that $75 million fund for vaccine injuries. That's telling me that they know something is coming.
Yeah. And
we've had these documents released, and we don't want to get into too much of that here on YouTube.
No.
But I think he knows. And so he's telling Canadians that they need stability. They need stability in government, so that's why we're doing it. But I think that he knows that he's on unstable ground politically, and with the economy the way that it is, it's rough. He has a big agenda to implement. He has more bad news. You can see the storm clouds forming, right? Yeah. I think we're in for one heck of a rocky ride with the economy. So he needs time to ride all of that out, and this will give it to him, I think. But depending on how rough it gets, we'll see if this coalition holds, because it sort of gives him some stability, but at the same time, it could disintegrate. One scandal and it could all be gone.
Of course. I have been wondering, and if you have seen anything like this, but what are the NDP voters saying about this? Because I haven't seen a peep out of them.
I've seen some things. I mean, they seem to be, of course, very happy about the dental plan and the pharmacare plan. So on that side of the fence, I think they're pleased because they're getting much of what they want. And
more socialism.
Yeah, more government involvement in healthcare. And I, of course, I'm on the other side. I see it as a trap. They've used healthcare as a weapon during the pandemic to get people to do what they want. I think that they've used the pandemic to gloss over and put a veil over the shortcomings of the healthcare system. I think the pandemic exposed the problems with the healthcare system. They didn't have adequate capacity. They didn't have the staffing or the resources in place to deal with an emergency that they said was in place. I don't want to get into too much of it here on YouTube because we'll get kicked off. But at some point, we will be jumping off of YouTube altogether. Even if we don't get kicked off, we'll be taking this channel off. So everyone needs to get over to Rumble. And when we get enough people migrated over to the Rumble channel and to some of the other platforms that we will soon be on, I think what we'll do is we'll ban YouTube, and we'll refuse to put our post. We'll refuse to post any more material over here because we don't, as a free speech, an organization that advocates for free speech, we don't really want to give them the support. We don't want to be on a platform where we have to watch every little thing we say.
That's exactly it. And I mean, we're all about having free discussions, and we are all about freedom of speech. And we don't need the technocracy with their thumb on us at all times. Like, it's just, it's dirty.
Hello, Shelley. She says, hi, Rick and Brendan. And I also want to take a moment. We're getting thousands and thousands of messages every day in the chats, and I'm getting thousands of emails, and I really appreciate it. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been engaging with us and trying to participate in the dialogue. But I wanted to apologize. We're just not able to respond to all of these messages. It is impossible. There are just too many. And I'm sorry about that. I did respond to some over the past couple of days, but it's just impossible for us to send a message back, a personal message back to everyone. There are just too many. Like I can't even read them all here fast enough at night when we're on all the messages coming in. So thank you everyone for responding. If I try to respond, but I can't even distinguish now sometimes between my personal messages from people that are like family and close friends and business messages that are coming in because I'm just being bombarded. So I'm sorry if I haven't responded to you. I'm not ignoring you. I just haven't been able to get back to everyone. It's just, like I say, impossible.
We do appreciate your support, though, and thank you so much, everybody who has reached out. It's amazing.
So while we wait for Kyle to join us, I thought maybe we'd start with this clip of, I believe he's from, what was it, the European Union? Oh, and actually, you know what? I wanted to mention this before we get into that. This is something I wanted to mention a couple of nights ago, and we just didn't have time. But the Ottawa police have laid charges in relation to an arson that took place during the truckers' convoy. And the media suggested that this was something related to the convoy, but let me bring up the Ottawa Police Service news release on their page, and it is not related to the convoy at all. The media just latched onto it and took advantage of it in an ongoing effort to smear the truckers as a bunch of violent insurrectionist Nazis. The media release reads, and this actually came out 2 days ago, and I knew about it 2 days ago, but we've had so much news and so much ground to cover here, I didn't get to it. A man has been charged in relation to a deliberately set fire in an apartment building on Lisgar Street on February 6th, 2022. A second man is still wanted by police. Ottawa Police arson investigators charged Connor Russell McDonald, 21 years old, of Ottawa, with one count each of the following: arson, disregard for human life, arson causing property damage, mischief to property endangering life, mischief to property, possess incendiary material. He will appear in court April 21st. There is no information indicating McDonald was involved in any way with the convoy protest, which was going on when this arson took place. Anyone with information regarding the second suspect's whereabouts is asked to contact the Ottawa Police Service Arson Unit at 613-236-1222, extension 3771, or extension 4587, or you can email Ottawa Police at arson@ottawapolice.ca, or anonymous tips can be submitted by calling Crime Stoppers toll-free at 1-800-222-8477 or at crimestoppers.ca. So, no truckers involved in that at all. And not surprising, since we were told that from the beginning. And joining us live now is Liz Vallee.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Tonight?
So awesome to see you.
And awesome to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an exciting night tonight. We have a really special guest on. I haven't met him yet, so it's a first for me, but I'm aware of him. I know that he has this new book out called CanaDAO, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. In fact, I'll bring it up here right now and show you what it looks like. I read the book today.
It's a shorter book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only 25 pages, I think. So
Yeah.
It's an easy, quick read, but well worth it. So I was able to get through it this morning over breakfast, and it made my ego go down smoother. And and I'm really excited to talk to him, because everything that I've been hearing, from him in on social media and wherever I've heard him interviewed, I think his views on many things align with mine, and I think probably with yours as well. And it's just really, I'm really excited. Justin Trudeau's half brother. It's sort of like, and they don't see eye to eye on a lot of these issues, and issues like freedom, and he seems to have the same demeanor. He talks about, he seems very tolerant, even tempered. I think, he embraces the idea of being peaceful and trying to be understanding with people. And, that's what we're all about here too, right? So I'm really, really excited about this interview.
No,
Yeah, I watched an interview with him, and I believe it was Sheila Gunn Reid from Rebel News.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really neat because I've watched a little bit of him, and, I kind of got the idea that he was a little more on, the freedom side of things rather than, how Justin Trudeau is, right? They seem like complete opposites, but it was really neat to see some of his points of view and hear him speak, because it's kind of a breath of fresh air, and he's very well spoken, and he has some really great ideas. So I think this is going to be really exciting tonight.
Yeah. And his book is interesting. He has some real ideas on ways to give the power back to the people, and for political reform, and to sort of update our political system so that it can take advantage of new technologies like the blockchain, internet, to, I think, empower people and give people more of a voice. So he has some really cool ideas that way. So I'm eager to explore all of that with him.
Yeah, for sure. Especially
Yeah, very
because
cool
now
guy.
the government is trying to get their fingers in on Bitcoin and that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what his perspective on that is. So I'll definitely be throwing that at him. It really is a classic tale of two brothers. Like, it's not really, it's like Romulus and Remus, or Cain and Abel, except somebody hasn't been murdered. So I mean, that's a different part of it, but still, there's a rivalry there.
You know, the funny thing is, well, it's maybe not funny. When I was setting up the broadcast and creating, the artwork and stuff today for the thumbnail and the headlines and so on, I was really reluctant to even mention Justin Trudeau in it, because I think that Kyle is his own man. I mean, he has his own views, and it must be very difficult to live in the shadow of Pierre Trudeau and that legacy, and then to have your brother sort of also in a role that overshadows the whole family, and to live in that, it must be very interesting. I didn't really even want to mention, because I thought, well, okay, like, you have to talk about it, I guess, or at least acknowledge it, and he always does. But you understand what I mean, right?
No, for sure.
Yeah, I get it, because he is. As soon as he starts speaking, I forget about Justin Trudeau. Like, every time I've watched him or anything like that, because it is like night and day, and he is a completely separate entity, and just it's hard to even just imagine that they are brothers, to be honest. But not just that, but like his goals and his ideas and views and everything like that, they are his. It's a completely, I mean, I guess you're right, he's his own man for sure.
This is just my own speculation. I think he is concerned about the state of freedom, and he is concerned about his brother, and that I think that he wants to call him out on the wrongdoings that he perceivably is doing. And so I think that's the whole nature of him coming public about it anyway.
Well, he'll get a chance here, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I think
we're not going to discourage that behavior.
Well, I think too that over time he will come into his own in the public light, especially with his book and the interviews that he's doing now. And I think as all of this unfolds and Justin becomes more and more and more and more unpopular because of all of the terrible things that he's honestly done to the Canadian people, I shouldn't even laugh. I think that I think Kyle will rise to a level where he is seen as being separate, and maybe even on the right side of history at the end of all of this, which I think the freedom movement is on the right side of history with regard to all of this stuff.
Maybe that whole situation just goes to prove a lot of what I know the three of us have talked about many times, and how important the individual is, right? Because here you've got two brothers, and I think a lot of people do associate family members with, possibly the same beliefs and same belief systems as each other. When you think of the Vallee family, people might think of that my husband thinks the exact same thing as me, and my sister thinks the exact same thing as me, but that is not true, right? And it kind of highlights the importance of the individual, because individuals can be completely different, but then at the same time we can all find unity in love and peace and freedom.
Yeah. So there's a time difference here between us and Kyle. He's out in British Columbia.
Oh, okay.
But he should be signing on pretty soon, I think. So we'll keep an eye open for that. And while we wait, maybe I can bring up this clip of Mislav Kolakusic, a member of the European Parliament who called out Justin Trudeau's actions on freezing bank accounts and some of these other authoritarian measures that he has put in place since the truckers' convoy. So let's, I'll bring that up and let's listen to his clip. And it shows how the Prime Minister's reputation is suffering internationally. And
kolege, dragi građani, premijeru Trudeau. Sloboda, pravo izbora, pravo na život i zdravlje, pravo na rad za mnoge od nas, to su temeljna ljudska prava za koje su milioni građana Europe i svijeta položili svoje živote. Za obranu naših prava i prava naše djece, koje smo stjecali stoljećima, mnogi od nas, uključujući i mene, spremni smo riskirati vlastitu slobodu i položiti vlastite živote. Nažalost, danas su među nama i oni koji gaze te temeljne vrijednosti. Kanada, nekada simbol modernog svijeta, je pod vodstvom vaše kvazi-liberalne čizme proteklih mjeseci postala simbol kršenja temeljnih ljudskih prava i građanskih sloboda. Gledali smo kako konjima gaze žene, kako samohranim roditeljima blokirate bankovne račune, da ne mogu platiti djeci školovanje, da ne mogu platiti lijekove, da ne mogu platiti račune za struju i vodu, da ne mogu platiti rate kredita za svoje domove. Za vas su to možda liberalne metode. Međutim, za mnoge građane svijeta to je diktatura najgore vrste. Budite uvjereni da građani svijeta, udruženi, mogu zaustaviti svaki režim koji želi uništiti slobodu građana, bilo bombama, bilo štetnim farmaceutskim proizvodima. Hvala.
Wow.
Yeah. Words.
That's pretty, that's intense, but man, that's awesome. Like, go ahead, Brendan.
This is consistent with what we're seeing out of the European Union Parliament. Plenty of other people have come out and said Justin Trudeau is a total dictator. Yeah, a lot of people don't like Justin anymore.
So this is a worldview, right? And I think we really need to look at this and think about this, because I get challenged a lot on social media, which, you know, as long as people are respectful, I'm open to and I welcome it. But what a lot of people say is that I have no idea what being stripped of freedoms is. I have no idea what tyranny is. I have no idea what being under a dictatorship is. It's like these things, these statements are thrown at me constantly, like all the time. But you have other countries saying the same thing that the three of us say all the time, right? They're calling out our prime minister and they're calling it like it is. And the people who have decided to throw those statements at me or not believe me, think I'm crazy and all those things, just think about what that gentleman just said. Because though we may not be bombed, there are so many dangers in what we're dealing with right now and what we began to deal with years ago. This has all been a ripple effect over years, decades, and we can go down that rabbit hole, but we don't need to. But the point is, people, regular citizens like us, have been trying to say this for a very long time now. And now we have representatives around the world calling it out. And so I just want, though, if anybody out there who has been opposing me, telling me I don't know what I'm talking about and things like that, just take a second, replay that clip and listen to what that man is saying, because he's telling the truth. And yes, we may not be bombed. Like, for example, when Candace Bergen got up and started talking about this unity between Trudeau and Jagmeet, and she said a statement along the lines of, our thoughts are with the Ukraine, and it just reminds us how lucky we are to live in Canada, and, you know, along those lines. And while we are still fortunate, absolutely, that we are not being bombed, the problem with just ignoring everything else that's going on is that might be us someday. Or we may be Venezuela, where everything is stripped away. We're waiting in bread lines. We can't get access to food. We can't get access to anything, you know. So what is wrong with nipping it in the bud? And we're not even at the point where we can nip it in the bud now. We're in the middle of it.
Well, that's just
right. I went off a little bit there, but I'm just saying is there's so many people that have been saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I have no clue what losing freedom is. And here we have a world leader calling out Justin Trudeau for who he is, a dictator.
Well, I think there's different levels of tyranny, and I think where Canada stands is kind of the quote-unquote early stage. But that's just my opinion, I would say. And you see there's the other side of the camp which says, oh, no, this isn't tyranny. But they don't understand that tyranny starts somewhere. It's a little bit at a time, right? Just a little bit. Few inches.
Talk to anybody who's lived in it.
Yeah.
Talk to anybody who's lived in it. Every single person, every single Canadian that I've talked to that has come from a dictatorship or has had parents that has come from a dictatorship, they tell me, they're like, Liz, you have to keep yelling. You have to keep telling people. You have to keep warning people, because it doesn't start with bombs. It starts with what they're doing right now.
Well, you guys know how I feel about Justin.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think we should pray for him.
Of course. I don't wish the guy any ill or harm.
No, I just don't want him to be the prime minister anymore.
That's just it, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? He's the opposite of what I just said, because he wishes me ill will and harm. And
yeah,
you,
I know, that's the unfortunate thing, right?
And Rick Walker. And we saw that during the election. It was very telling as to who he is. And
well, what leader calls his citizens names? Really? Who does that? Justin Trudeau does that.
Doug Ford, he calls everybody a Yahoo.
Yahoos, yeah.
Although I don't think that's that insulting, though. It's kind of like what
but
really.
It shows a lack of integrity and respect for the people who you are supposed to be working for and leading. You're supposed to be propelling our citizens forward. They're supposed to be propelling us and lifting us up and helping us drive towards opportunities where this country can thrive, and taking what we have, the potential that we have, and helping it flourish, right? That's what leaders do. They don't just take it all over and then let it go down the crapper and then call everybody names because of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's kind of when you know that they're out of steam, intellectual steam. They resort to name calling.
I mean, that's what we see all the time, right? People resort to name calling when they don't have anything intelligent left to say. And some of it, in all fairness, can be a knee-jerk reaction or emotions that have gotten heightened and things like that. But when it's your go-to, I mean, come on. And as a leader, you know, somebody at the prime minister level or a premier level, they should be beyond that. They should be above that and know how to, you know, contain themselves enough to not call their citizens names.
They shouldn't act like me.
Like that guy who wanted to give Rick a colonoscopy.
Yes.
Well, and he's just a regular dude, right? So fair enough. You know, we speak.
What do you mean, fair enough? I wanted to do it with my DSLR camera.
Well,
That's
yeah.
not ergonomically designed for that application. I'm just
Yeah, you might want to see an internist.
Well, oh sure, laugh it up. I was the guy who was going to be on the receiving end.
Oh, that guy couldn't do anything to you.
You're a tough guy. It wouldn't have respected his social distancing to do that to you.
Exactly.
What do you think about the new government tow trucks? I don't know what he's talking about. Did I miss something? Government tow trucks.
What you talking about, Big D?
I don't know. Maybe Big D can explain that one. I'm not sure. I do have a clip. This is from a few nights ago. And this is from Jeremy McKenzie, who was on the program. And I wanted to run this clip because this is another thing, talking about respect and lockdowns and so on. And the, the mask mandates being eliminated in Ontario and in most other provinces, but in Nova Scotia, still in place. Okay. And there was a small demonstration in front of the home of the chief medical officer of health for Nova Scotia, and Jeremy McKenzie went by and posted this video, and I'll just play it for you. And I want to get comments on this.
See, it's real simple. That's Dr. Strang's house back there. Now, Dr. Strang is the top doctor for Nova Scotia. And Nova Scotia, as I understand, is now the only province that's refusing to lift mask mandates for kids in schools. See, in Dr. Strang, the doctor who thinks that the flu takes years off, it must go train, it must go lift weights and just work real hard to get stronger and come back even better next season, really wants that title. He thinks that's a thing. He also thinks it's apparently fine to jam thousands of people inside the Metro Center for a Mooseheads game, but kids can't go to school. It's too dangerous, you see. You can go to the Micmac Mall, but kids can't go to school. It's too dangerous, and he refuses to answer the question. Why is that? Why did you lift the mandates for everyone else, for everything else? Why is it that my kids and everyone else's kids who were really looking forward to, going back to school and not having to muzzle their faces and get all kinds of bacterial infections and, suffer from, low oxygen and all of this? Why? Doesn't have an answer. He doesn't have an answer because he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a rugby team medical doctor that is a political placement. He's here because he's a useful idiot. He's a moron that does what he's told, and he collects his paycheck and he goes home. So, a few of us camped outside of his house. He doesn't like it. And what did he do? He called the police. The RCMP. They showed up real fast, too. We should have told them we were a 55-year-old denturist on a rampage. Then it would have took them all goddamn night to figure out what to do. How's that going, by the way, guys? There's no accountability in this country. That's the problem, right? And they're trying to say, "Oh, where is his house is inconvenient." Oh, is it inconveniencing? Are you inconvenienced? I feel pretty goddamn inconvenienced. The tens of thousands of healthcare workers that have been released and let go because of these nonsensical. Look at these clowns on the patrol for fire. He's probably looking for a fire hall to go shoot at. Tens of thousands of healthcare workers that you fire and let go in the middle of a pandemic. Does that sound like it makes sense to you? Of course it doesn't. They don't know what they're doing. They're morons. Here come some more people now. It's not hard, man. Just grow up. Grow up and act like a man. Then come out here and answer a fucking question. It's not that hard. What are you basing this on? Let people put their kids back in schools without any of this nonsense. It's theater. These cops are out here talking to people, and they don't have a mask on them, and somebody points out, they go, "Oh, geez, I better put it on because there's cameras involved." It's. What are you, 12? Just let the kids go back to school, for God's sakes. It's not. It's just basic logic. If it's too dangerous, it's too dangerous. They're vulnerable. They're vulnerable. How many children have died from this virus? Any? So you're just senselessly torturing these kids. One of my own, he hates it. On the verge of having a nervous breakdown. He gets very upset about it. And he was really looking forward to going back to school to see his friends. Now his mom's going to play homeschool teacher again for another indefinite period of time. And they're going to give you a day. When? When is it going to be released? Well, maybe in April sometime. I don't know. I don't know. No other province is doing this. Florida and Texas combined are almost twice the size of the entire country of Canada. They haven't been doing this I think it's banned in Florida. None of that stuff goes on down there. This is lunacy. It's actual fucking lunacy. That man there is mentally ill. At best, he's out of his mind. At worst, he's a compliant puppet for corporations and pharmaceutical companies making billions of dollars hand over fist, and he's torturing your and mine children to do it. And a few people show up with a couple of signs. He couldn't be bothered to come out here and talk to a couple of small women and answer basic questions about how the hell he's even reasoning any of this stuff. And why'd you call the cops so quick? Why'd you scurry around in your house like some kind of a frightened rodent? Is it because you're guilty? It's because you're guilty of something. You are guilty.
So,
Jeremy.
Yeah.
I believe you've also been to a medical officer health
I
house.
was just going to comment on that. If you guys remember, I made national news once again because I was outside. Now, this wasn't my project, but I went and supported some people who wanted to address.
You got all the blame anyway, and it's always your fault.
I am very happy. Yeah, it's always Liz's fault, but that's fine. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to be the scapegoat because I'd much rather it be me than the actual people who organized it, because they are sweet, loving people who are just feeling the way Jeremy is. And when you try to show up at these people's offices and they aren't there because they've all been working from home or whatever, and you call and you try to book phone calls or appointments to see them to figure out what's going on, and they're not there, they won't answer you. Or, you know, in some cases, if you do get an answer, you're filled with lies anyway. These people, like Jeremy, are at the end of their rope. People got to understand, when you talk about messing with people's children, honestly, the way it went down there, it looked so quiet and so non-threatening.
There's like, three people?
Yeah, like when we were outside of Colby's office, yeah, they yelled shame and, you know, things like that. But we stood on the sidewalk. They said a quiet neighborhood. It's not a quiet neighborhood. It's actually a very busy major road that he lived on, one of his houses. But we stayed off his property and it was peaceful. The cops came. They realized we weren't doing anything wrong and they left. People get very upset when you start messing with their children. And children, like, I cannot believe that there's still a province that hasn't lifted the mask mandate. He's right. And why is it always the kids? Why is it always the kids that what is the fascination, the want by these politicians and these health experts? Why do they keep picking on the kids? What is it? Like, what is... I call them psychos because they're acting like psychos. The kids are the least at risk of all the people, and yet they're the last ones to get back to normal. It's bullshit.
I would wager that this is more to do with left-leaning unions, particularly the ones that are involved in the schools there.
Yeah, you have a very good point, because I do follow a couple teachers unions on social media, and their posts are absolutely disgusting, and it does not reflect the teachers that I've talked to. I know lots of teachers, and their views do not reflect what the teachers say that I talk to, and it's absolutely disgusting, some of the posts that I see. They're obsessed with keeping kids masked and keeping them social distance, and they say it's for their safety, but really they've damaged their safety because these kids are depressed.
Yeah. Now, Rick has a really interesting point about these types of situations, because a lot of media outlets and stuff like that have always said, like, oh, you shouldn't go to these people's houses. It's intimidation and this, that, and the other thing. But what's the point you make, Rick? It's about like.
Well, look, that's quite right, Brendan. Like the media, and even people on the left side of the political spectrum who are advocates for lockdowns and masks and all of these pandemic measures. They say, oh, well, you shouldn't protest out in front of their house. That's bad form. It's inappropriate. It's just not right. You shouldn't go to their homes. I say bullpucky, because they have come to a lot of people's homes. They've gone beyond that. They've taken people's jobs away. They've made it impossible for some people to even make a living. So you have medical officers of health like Dr. Strang, Dr. Moore, Dr. Colby, many, many others, and a lot of other people on that side of the equation who clearly don't give a damn about the families, the kids of those people that have lost their jobs. They don't care about their welfare. They don't care about the people who have been told they're not allowed to get a heart transplant or another organ transplant because they haven't taken the thing in the arm. They don't care if they live or die. So to these politicians and to these bureaucrats and others who say, don't go to their home, that's not appropriate. It's damn appropriate. You should get right up in their face. You should get right up in their grill and protest all you want right out in front of their house, right on the sidewalk. You don't go on their property, but you stay on public property and you protest all you want right out in front. And here's the other thing. If you're making $200,000, $300,000, $450,000 a year, you're well paid to put up with it. It's
by the taxpayer, by the way.
By the taxpayer. It's the public pays you, you work for the public, and those people deserve information, and they deserve a conversation with you. And if you can't be bothered to come out and talk to them, then you're the one with the problem, not the protesters. They want answers. You should give them the answers. They want dialogue. They want to be treated with respect, and they deserve that. And if you're not willing to talk to them, if you're not willing to sit down with them, then don't be surprised when they show up on your doorstep. And I think it's entirely appropriate for them to be there, because that's your damn job. You don't like it, go find another line of work, because you're a public servant and the public is there holding you accountable. It comes with the territory. Same thing with all these politicians like John Tory, who has been, from time to time confronted by people, even in public. I remember him being asked questions at a restaurant that were tough, and he didn't like it. Well, too damn bad. Suck it up, pal, because that's your job. And if you're going to take people's jobs away, you know what? I mean, there might have been a time when maybe you just as a point of etiquette, you just don't go over and bother somebody. But they crossed the line a long time ago. So as far as I'm concerned, they don't deserve that level of, discretion or consideration. Not anymore. Not when you're out there destroying thousands of people's lives. Thousands. Maybe millions across the country, really, collectively. Yeah. They took people's jobs away and said, too bad for you. They've said, you can't get on a plane and you can't get on a train. You can't travel. You dirty, unvaxxed people. You still have to wear a mask and you have to do this. And, and there's no personal choice left. They've taken choice away from people. They're coercing people. And if you don't fall into line, man, well, then just too damn bad when they show up on your damn doorstep. And you know what? You should be grateful they aren't even more vocal and more aggressive, because I think for the most, not for the most part, these protesters have been entirely peaceful at every turn. And how have the protesters been treated? We saw in Ottawa, Trudeau sending in the goon squad. We've seen just in this past weekend, Calgary police with their attitude, again, becoming violent. Those protests were never violent.
Did you see the legislation, Rick, that they put in?
Yeah. The
So they weren't allowed to use any kind of amplifier, no
right, the
bullhorn, no mic.
injunction, yeah.
Yep. Or
To
sorry,
limit to limit reasonable limits on the protest. Yeah, you know what? That's targeting people politically, people you don't agree with. That's weaponizing police and police allowing themselves to be politicized and weaponized by politicians. It's entirely inappropriate. They're not treating everyone the same. They're targeting a specific group, freedom protesters. And the police chief of Calgary has made his bias very clear by calling them and branding the freedom protesters now, as he calls them, he says, as I call them now, anti-democracy protesters. Well, I guess you just showed how biased you are.
Isn't that an oxymoron?
Yeah.
Really? Like, so, people who are fighting for freedom, you would think they would be pro-democratic, but I mean, the word democratic, it doesn't even mean, it's another word that doesn't mean the same thing as it used to anymore, right? What is democracy now? In their eyes, it's completely different. It's you have to believe whatever we believe. That's democracy.
Yeah, you have to support the government or you're
you're
anti-democracy.
Pro-government or you're anti-democracy.
Yeah, because they were elected, apparently, in a fair election, apparently.
Well, did we elect a liberal / NDP federal government? Did we elect that?
Not that I recall, and I don't think. And you know, I was trying to think back, and I haven't had time to research this, but I think at some point, Jagmeet Singh, at least I think, was asked. Trudeau might have been asked if they would consider an alliance or a coalition government, and Jagmeet Singh rejected it, if I remember correctly. I haven't had time to look it up, but I'm pretty sure he said that at some point during the election campaign, and yet here we are.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's because he didn't get elected.
What's that?
He didn't get elected, and when he was running, he wanted to be prime minister. Why would you?
Well,
if you want to be prime minister, you're not going to say, "Oh, well, we're going to do a."
But he was given a hypothetical, and he said no, if I remember right. Don't quote me yet. Could be wrong. But
they always do that. Right? It was every lockdown. Oh, we're not going to lock down again, right? No. We're not going to mandate vaccines. We're not going to, force vaccines. It's going to be a choice. Everything. They've flip-flopped on everything. All of them. Yeah. Everything. Even the conservatives. I'm so disgusted by them. Every time they speak, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I see actors when they start speaking, and I see phonies, and it's all political theater to me. The whole damn parliament is fake to me. I can't even handle it anymore. They sit there and they yell at each other, and there's like this, heckling and everything like that, but it's so phony. It's so disgusting. It's like, this isn't a game, guys. This is people's lives here. And not a single one of you represent the people. If they had spoken up for us in the last 2 years, maybe I might think that they're being genuine, but they're not. They're lying. They're doing this for the show. And that's the way I'm sure it's the way it had always been. I remember when my dad used to watch Parliament back in the day, back when I was young, and I used to be like, what is their problem, right? But I never paid attention when I was younger. But I always be like, these guys are arguing like children. And he's like, oh, it's just the way they are, right? But when we're at this point in our lives, the country, the way it is right now, and I see them acting like that, I get so disgusted. I can't even watch them, and I can't take any of them seriously. I can't take the conservatives seriously. I sit there and I watch them make their little statements. I'm like, yeah, you're just setting your future up. That's all you're doing. Your own little future is what you're setting up right now. Look at what happened with the truckers convoy. They started to support them, and then they started calling it an insurrection and what do they call occupation? they started using that language. It's like, no, if you really were supporting these people that are losing their livelihoods, you wouldn't use that language. You'd be speaking like we speak right now, like Maxime Bernier speaks, like Roman Baber speaks. Like, at least they have been consistent throughout this whole thing. I don't know. I just can't watch them. They're disgusting in my eyes.
Well,
I'm on with Kyle Kemper right now. He's not able to join us tonight. He's sending me a message. So I'm just seeing if he can set another time so I can let everyone know now.
Okay.
Okay, so Friday, he says. Sure, Friday is great. Same time, same station. Yep. Okay, so Friday, same time. And sorry about that, folks. I guess he had something come up and just wasn't able to log on. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he's apologizing, and I appreciate him letting us know. And yes, I will send you the invite once off the air. There you go. So you kind of had the secondhand. There's the Reader's Digest version of the conversation I just had with him. So he'll be on Friday night now instead. Kyle Kemper, and excited still about doing the interview. It'll just make it even more worthwhile, because what's the phrase? It's not absence makes the cart grow fonder, but the anticipation is making me hungrier for the interview.
Exactly.
There, I made that one up.
The anticipation.
That's okay. See, and I was like, I have to read that book today. I have to read the whole thing today. And I downloaded the book, and then it was like, oh, it's only 25 pages. I'm like, thank God. So I was able to read it over breakfast. I thought I was going to have to like deep dive into that book today because I hadn't read it yet. I thought I was going to be at it for quite a while, but it's a short booklet. It's called CanaDAO. It's available on Amazon. I'll bring it up. And for folks who are going to join us on Friday, you might want to prepare yourself for the interview with Kyle Kemper, because that's his book. You can get it on Amazon. It's $4.99 and well worth it. I found it to be a very interesting read, and it is full of great ideas that I'm excited to have him expand on when he joins us now on Friday. So I think that'll be a really positive and constructive conversation, and as I say, I'm really excited about it. You should come back on Friday, Liz, and participate.
I can try, but I'm at a ringette tournament, so.
Family.
London, but if I can, I'll message you if I can.
Yeah, parenthood.
Yep.
She's gonna ignore me the whole weekend anyway. She's gonna be with her friends.
Yeah,
she's not gonna want anything to do with Mom. I'm not cool enough anymore.
Well, we think you're cool enough.
That's okay. We have lots of other stuff to talk about tonight anyhow, all kinds of other news going on. So
there's always a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Especially right now, it's like every day there's just.
I don't know how they do this every day. Like
do you guys think that we're going to get the Liz Vallee treatment now that I've admitted openly that I got COVID?
No,
because even that's Liz's fault. Everything is Liz's fault. Remember?
They'll probably say that I gave it to you.
Well, and so for folks who don't know, who maybe are watching from other countries or other provinces, Liz was the People's Party of Canada candidate in Chatham-Kent-Leamington. That's why it still says PPC on her name tag down there at the bottom of the name super, and she did contract COVID because her kids brought it home from school, and then the media jumped all over her and tried
Well,
to turn it
actually,
into a big
it was a
thing.
community member that blasted me on social media because she must have found out through another parent because one of my kids was absent from school. And yeah, so she started to blast me. And then I made a public statement about what happened because I wanted to put people's minds at ease, people who had been in contact with me the week before, because I wasn't even at that point, I wasn't even infected yet. And so, so I made a public statement, and then the media picked it up, and I end up on 9 different news outlets.
National news
Included. Yes.
What a double standard that just exposed to, right? I mean, like if you were on the pro-lockdown, pro-mask, pro-left-wing, pro-communist, pro-fascist, anti-freedom side, if you got COVID, you were a victim and probably were infected by some anti-vaxxer, and it's all their fault. But if you were a PPC candidate, boy, like Liz, and you got COVID, it was your own damn fault because you were careless. And if you'd done this and done that, then you would have been fine. But you probably
and I had people tell me, "Don't you dare go to the hospital."
Right. And how many people said they hoped you would die?
Well, too bad, bitches. I'm still here. Seriously, like I wasn't even worried about going to the I'm like, go to the hospital for what? I'm not even close to being like this is barely even a virus for me. And it went down exactly the way I said it was going to go down. And I don't mean to sound, I don't want to play it down for other people, but the truth of the matter is I take care of my damn health, like big time. I'm a very healthy person. I eat very well. I exercise. I can lift probably more than a lot of people. And
it's true. I've seen her pick up a couch all by herself.
That's actually true. But I take care of myself, and I knew that if I caught the virus that I was going to be just fine. And same with my children, because they're athletic and they eat well, and we do all the things that we're supposed to do to keep ourselves healthy. So if I had gotten really, really sick, and if I had died from COVID, well, then that was my fate, and that's how God would have wanted it. And I can't live my life being afraid that something little is going to take me out, or else I'm never going to walk out those doors ever again, But something like a virus, a cold, a flu, a COVID, it's not something that somebody in my situation needs to be scared of and stay in their basement. So it went down exactly the way I knew it was going to go down. Is that the real River Phoenix?
It's the real one tonight.
Yeah. So, it was funny to me when people were like, "Don't you dare go to the hospital." It's like, don't worry, I wasn't going to.
I thought I had strep to start with. It felt very much like strep.
That's how Liam felt.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm feeling a little bit better, or well enough to sit here tonight, like compared to yesterday. And then tomorrow I'm going to be like way better.
So this is the thing. I mean, COVID's been such this huge issue. Everyone's been living in, not everyone, but some people have been living in extreme fear. When I go out, even now, I go into stores and I went to Best Buy, and I think at least half of the people working there were still wearing masks. And I asked one of the employees when I walked in, I said, "Are they making you wear that mask?" And he said, "No." Okay. Because if he had told me that they were forcing him to wear the mask still, I was going to turn around and walk right back out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have shopped there. But I want Brendan to share your COVID experience with the viewers and with us, because I'm very interested to know how close to death you are.
Okay. Well, Monday after the show, so about 9 o'clock, I started feeling really cold, like really cold. And it's not because my house is cold. It's 22 Celsius. It's about 70 Fahrenheit or 71, something like that. And I go, holy gee, I'm freezing. And then I started getting these really bad body aches. And so I went to bed that night. And I woke up and I felt terrible. Like, I'm not going to undermine it. Like, I was hardly even able to move or get up. So I slept for a lot. I had no appetite. Last night I woke up about 3 a.m. I was feeling a little bit hungry, so I made some oatmeal and tea, and then I went back to bed, and here I am. I maybe feel like 40% better than I did yesterday. I still have a little bit of a fever, but...
Don't worry, it could get worse.
Could it?
Well, I know that I think Hallelujah and a couple of the other trolls on here are hoping.
Oh my goodness. You guys need to be quiet. Don't hope.
He'll probably be dead soon.
We're a free speech platform. If they wish me ill will, that is on them.
Well,
However,
well, then I
Hallelujah.
welcome karma to do whatever it needs to do.
There's a guy on here, he's a troll, or it could be a woman, I don't know. Or it could be another gender, named Hallelujah. And I want to know what Hallelujah, the troll, thinks of Brendan having COVID. Do you want... I'm asking Hallelujah specifically tonight, because Hallelujah's on here every night and it just floods the comments. Do you want Brendan to die? That's my question.
Oh my God.
Are you hoping?
oh,
Would not wish COVID on the terrorists, he says. Let me find this.
Yeah,
here.
but that doesn't answer the question, because
Would not wish COVID on the terrorist. Well, since we're not terrorists, it doesn't
That doesn't
apply.
answer
I
the
want to
question.
know, do you want Brendan to die? Well, we'll see if... Anyway, we'll see if Hallelujah responds.
And that side is supposed to be the progressive caring ones?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
see, because
I
if Brendan
misunderstood, 'cause
dies,
it sounds, yeah.
then he can't spread it to any
I
fascists or
think I'll stick with my far right nut job wing of the side that I'm on.
So
I
I've
don't
been wanting.
that.
So we now have two people who've had COVID. I don't think I've had it.
You may have.
I might have.
Some people don't even know, right? Because the symptoms are
Yeah,
so
that's it.
mild. Honestly, if we hadn't tested, we probably would have never known, because Leia's symptoms presented exactly like her allergies. She had the exact same thing in March 2021, the exact same thing. And we tested her back then and she was negative and all that stuff. And she presented the exact same way, but it wasn't until Liam had woke up with a sore throat that we were like, oh, okay, maybe this is something. And again, I think so. Liam was the sickest out of the three of us, also vaccinated, but whatever. He was the sickest out of the three of us, and I think based on how everything went down, had we not been so hyper aware of what was going on, we probably would have thought it was a mild cold.
Yeah, well, Clark, I don't want Brendan to die. I don't want him to die. That's right, because then half the show is good. Well, at least a third now. At least
I've never talked about my own mortality so much in so little time. But I was telling Rick Walker this afternoon, I was like, how come this didn't happen to Liz Vallee? And he was like, I don't know, man. She's one tough chick. I've seen her chug shots on Facebook.
That's right. I said she's tougher than the two of us combined. So, that's why she got COVID, and it was like nothing.
Yeah.
Corona? Who cares?
Yeah.
Give me a double dose of the virus.
And I haven't been sick at all since then. I've come across so many viruses since I was sick with COVID, and I have not I always catch somebody's cold or flu, or now this year corona, every year I do, working in a gym, and my husband works with the public, the kids are at school, right? There's viruses around me all the time, and I've had clients of mine stay home sick. I've had kids in my kids classes be sick, and it's always around me. And I can tell when my body's fighting something, but I never end up sick since I've had COVID. It's like my immune system got boosted up, and I'm like Super Mario now.
Well, it's true that the virus that doesn't kill you is going to make you stronger. It's once you get over it, you have better immunity. That's a scientific fact, right?
Yeah. So it's definitely worked that way.
Yeah. And we're going to have a special COVID Pfizer document broadcast coming up, and going to have some a bunch of people on to talk about that. We should get you on, Liz, with that. And I'm not sure that the same can be said for these vaccines, because I'm seeing data today and studies that have raised some question marks surrounding all of that stuff. So we'll get into that in that broadcast once we get it set up.
Yeah, it's not really YouTube friendly, so.
Yeah, we're not going to get into it here, but yeah, Liz survived. She's alive. And Brendan's here, risking his life in the interests of free speech and journalism. He probably got infected on purpose just so he could share his experience here tonight.
Yes.
Which is why you should donate to us at freedomreporters.com, or click the link in the YouTube or Facebook or Rumble descriptions and donate, so that when Brendan kicks over and bites the dust, we'll be able to send flowers.
Exactly.
Or, and I shouldn't be joking about that, because he's not going to, which is why I'm joking about it. But
that's why it's funny.
That's right, because he's clearly okay.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine.
He wouldn't be on here. I mean, he already got sick, right? So.
Well, yeah, yesterday I was like, I can't make it.
Right.
So yeah, you didn't feel well yesterday at all, right? So it was kicking your butt yesterday.
Yeah.
So
Today
what I really want to know is, what's it like? Like, what would you compare it to? What, like, is it a cold, a flu? I mean, I don't know.
A strep throat or a really bad flu. It was more like strep throat that I had at one point.
Have you had strep throat before?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have. So okay. I've never had it.
Oh, so you couldn't really talk, like your throat was that sore yesterday?
I couldn't even move. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I couldn't even really talk. I couldn't.
But did your throat feel like it had razor blades in it, or were you just lethargic?
No, I was just lethargic and dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of debating on going to the clinic to get antibiotics today, and then my brother called me. He goes, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, I've had COVID since I've seen you." And he was here.
Did he say he forgot to tell you?
Well, he didn't get around to it to tell
Brothers.
Me. Oh, well.
And because everybody in my family's already had it or whatever, nobody else got it but me.
By the way, I forgot.
Yeah, and so I was like, I'm not going to the clinic over that. So if I'm feeling...
an antibiotic wouldn't help unless you developed a bacterial infection because of the virus. So, yeah, you just got to let it do its thing.
Yeah.
For the most part. Unless you get really sick.
But it looks like you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But you should definitely donate, just in case I do die. Rick Walker's going to have to pick out a casket for me. And it'll be a discount one.
Get you a paper bag.
Well, no, we're going to upscale and go cardboard. Yeah, I'm going to go down to the appliance store and get a refrigerator box.
That'll work just fine. It'll be biodegradable, just like me.
Oh my God,
you-
this is just this whole broadcast is
I'm gonna
deteriorating.
turn this around real quick here, sort of. I was wondering if you guys heard one of the press conferences with Theresa Tam, and I think it was either earlier this week. It had to have been last week. And I heard her say, but I haven't refound the video, but I heard her say that in the fall, well, when the season starts back up again of, illnesses, that they were going to start testing for colds, flus, and COVID. Did you guys hear that?
I heard even Ontario's chief medical officer say similar things. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Like I
Because
knew
they're
I
worried about the combined, the Omicron Delta, Super Delta, OB270Z zebra virus combining with the flu and the cold to create the Godzilla virus, which will doom you to death. So we must lock down.
So I just don't know how useful for Canadians' mental health to be hyper aware of every flu, every cold, every little strain of every virus that's going around, right? I feel like we're creating a nation of hypochondriacs, and we already have that. And so I feel like instead of moving forward, we're taking a billion steps back, because now people are going to be testing for things we never tested for before.
Well,
yes.
This just goes to show you that this is the biggest problem of all with socialist medicine. That whatever is happening or whatever is going around is going to shut down basically the economy every time there's a cold and flu season.
Right.
The biggest problem with socialized healthcare right now is that they weaponized it, and they used it as a tool against the people, and because they rationed the care when they basically took care away, except that they became focused on one single thing because the system was inadequate, and they weaponized it. And I said this, I think, earlier in this broadcast, right? It's like, if you don't do this, you don't get that. And you don't have any other choice on any place to go. So if you don't comply with everything that they want, they take it away. And they really did use it as a tool against the people in order to get people to comply, so that you got the thing.
Yeah.
And you know what? We are 1 to 2 variants away from anybody who doesn't have the magic poke from being denied healthcare, I would say.
Well, in a way, we were denied healthcare because they took away your choice. It's like there was only one place you could go. There was only one course of treatment available to you. If you wanted to use the alternative treatments that they banned, there was you had no options. You couldn't get a second opinion. And if you did get a second opinion, it was the same opinion as the first opinion, because they made sure that everybody had the same damn opinion.
Or else their licenses were in jeopardy.
That's right. Or they were fired and they weren't allowed to practice anymore, and they couldn't give you the treatment that they chose to give you if they were, a physician that maybe didn't agree with what was going on. You weren't allowed to have a different opinion. So one single source healthcare, government provided, and only one course of treatment available to you.
Right.
You're not allowed to explore anything else. That's it.
So last night you had your special guest Rhonda Jubinville on, and she's with the New Blue Party of Ontario, running for Chatham-Kent-Leamington. Quickly, I'll come right out and say I fully support her, and I will be helping her in her campaign. She mentioned last night, during the interview I was listening to you guys, she mentioned healthcare. And she mentioned, proposing, and this was her own opinion, didn't have to do with the party just yet, but mentioning, a two-tiered type of system. And, as I'm listening to this and she's expressing this is such a unpopular opinion, in that anybody who leans a little bit left or likes the socialist healthcare and that kind of thing, they hate that idea. Because if we had that in this whole situation with the pandemic, people would have had choices. Doctors could have prescribed the X, Y, and Z bad, harmful medications that don't work on COVID, right? They could have provided early treatment. How many deaths would have been avoided? You know, I love the idea of giving people an option. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, there is nothing wrong with having that option for people. You still have healthcare for people who can't afford it. You still have socialist healthcare. But on top of that, if I can afford $20,000 to go get an MRI done, or however much it costs, an MRI done to figure out if I have cancer because I want to know right now and I don't want to wait 6 months, what's wrong with that? It's unfair. It's unfair. It's unfair to the poor. Well, the poor aren't going to get it anyway, and neither will I. So at least, and then what you have there, anybody who's taking themselves out of the system and, you know, going to this system where they can actually pay with their own money, they've pulled themselves out of the socialist system. That opens up an appointment for somebody else.
And because Hallelujah is a complete moron, and this illustrates the insanity we're dealing with on the other side.
Oh,
throw it out there.
That is
for
so
a little
important.
Entertainment value.
You know, when people talk about
Still didn't answer the
yes, it is a horse dewormer, but like, you know, you're showing your intelligence when you don't even actually realize that there's human doses and it actually is prescribed to humans in some circumstances. So just, yeah.
Yeah,
when they show their knowledge.
With regard to choice, it's like if you have the free market and you want to buy a car, you have all these different car companies, and maybe you think that, you know, maybe this car company makes a piece of crap car like a Lada that's only going to last a year and fall apart, right?
Mm-hmm. Fiat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said Lada because, you know, we don't want to, anyway, Lada. And then over here you have you know, another brand that is going to last 30 years, and you want the one that's going to last 30 years, but the government is making a Lada, and they don't you're not allowed to buy anything else. You have to buy a Lada, but you know it's going to fall apart in a year. But if you even say that you like the other brand, well, you're a traitor. Right? That's what we have with socialized healthcare. That's a big problem. So, and who's to say that they're always going to get it right every single time? Who's to say they got it right this time? If they're screwing up, you don't have any place to go. If they make a decision that's providing care that's killing everybody, whatever the illness or the treatment might be, and it's bad, but you only have one place and you only one choice.
But here in Ontario, they took away the doctor's ability to use their own knowledge, their own judgment for their own patients. They took that away because if they went against their narrative in any way, shape, or form, their license was being reviewed. And that is not providing healthcare. That is providing political agenda to patients. You cannot, these government officials, even the public health officials, they don't have the same experience and knowledge, education as physicians, surgeons, specialists. These people know what they're doing for the most part. And when the patient second guesses that, well, guess what? They get to go have a second opinion. They took that away. They took that away through this pandemic. And so you're right, Rick, it left people with only one place to go. And you know what? To be honest, I avoid any doctors or hospitals like the plague. I
Right.
do, because that's one major motivation for me to keep myself as healthy as I am, because I don't need to rely on socialist healthcare to keep me well. I will do that myself. I've done it. I've come this far. I was very sick through my adulthood, and I have solved a lot of my illnesses on my own when doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me. And that was before COVID. Now, yes, doctors have more education than I do. They know more than me. But guess who knows their own body better than anybody? It's you out there, guys. If you are taking care of yourself and you're eating well, you're exercising, you're getting enough sleep, you're lowering your stress, you're getting outside, you're having fun, all of those things, having a good quality of life, you're going to know when there's something wrong with you. Not your doctor, you. And your doctor, when you do know there's something wrong, they're going to be able to guide you. But the doctor gives you advice, and then you decide what to do from there. Not your doctor, not your government official, not your public health official. You do. You decide your life.
Yep.
So where this all got mixed up in these last 2 years, I have no idea, but we need to stop.
It is. It's been beyond ridiculous. And they just want to inject themselves into everybody's business instead of minding their own.
Right. And that's why people get mad when you don't put something into your body that they put into their body, and cover your face up with something that you don't want to cover your face up with because they're doing it, so you better do it. No, it doesn't work like that. If you want to do it, you go right ahead. Just leave me alone. That's all I ask. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, somehow that all got thrown out the window, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that we can, the medical industry, I hope that it can be somehow turned around. Like, I'd like to say this election is important coming up in June. I'd like to say that we have an opportunity to do that, but you can't. If you think that you can vote your way out of this mess and improve Ontario by voting for Liberal, Conservative, NDP, Green, or any of those already establishment career parties that you voted for all your life, you're kidding yourself. None of these people care about you, and none of them give a crap. They're all out to fill their pockets, and it's always going to be that way. And if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, you are officially insane.
Yes, that is the definition.
Yep. So, I mean, we tried to tell people during my campaign, right? We tried to tell people, don't vote for the same thing. Don't vote for the same thing. I kept saying that. You kept saying that. We all kept saying that. But people did. We didn't get a different result. We got the exact same prime minister, got a minority government, and now those two have buddied up, and who knows what they're going to be up to now.
Well, I think it's a disaster for the country, because this ensures, really, I think, that the censorship bill is going to get passed. They're going to spend money hand over fist. This will accelerate and guarantee, this whole New World Order, World Economic Forum, globalist agenda, whatever the hell they're doing. They're going to ram this stuff through, because they're both on the same page anyway.
Oh yeah, they wanted that. Like, I mean, if anybody thinks that Trudeau is going to blink an eye at anything that Jagmeet was, yay, Rhonda. If anybody thought that Trudeau was going to blink an eye at anything Jagmeet was going to ask for, they're kidding themselves. I didn't read that.
I didn't get that. I don't know what it was. Liz, you don't understand what Marxists are attempting. They don't want individual thought.
Oh, yeah. No, I do understand that.
Yeah, you do. You get it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm afraid PPC and Blue might split the vote. You mean PPO?
Well, not PPC. Oh, PPO. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm not aware of a PPO candidate yet. So.
Yeah, neither am I. I'm not sure what their capacity is at this point. I haven't really seen a whole lot out of them.
For our riding, anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to be, I try to be as transparent and honest as I can all the time. Sometimes maybe my thoughts myself aren't complete yet, and that, that might be why my mind has changed sometimes. But I'll tell you what I really wish we could see in this province during this election is people looking at who gives a crap about the party. Honestly, look at your candidates. Who do you want to represent you? Who's been consistent? Who's been honest? Who's been caring about the people the entire time? Anybody who seems like they really want a career in this is probably not the one you want representing you. Think about who your best candidate is, who you think is gonna not flip-flop and screw you over in a few months. Think about that. Yes, I do believe you, Rhonda. I believe Rhonda 100%. Why? Because she has been consistent.
True.
She has never flip-flopped on any of her values. Has her mind been changed on some small subjects? Yes. But she's always believed in people's rights.
Well, she's very real, I would
She
say.
is very real.
Yeah.
And she never, she was like me. She never thought that she was going to be a politician. Even when she was campaigning with me, she wasn't like, oh, I would love a career in politics. No, she did this because she wanted to give our community somebody to vote for. We need that. We need somebody to vote for. And she is a loving person. She cares about people. She will be honest, and she will stick to her morals and her beliefs. And here's the problem with the politicians is if they go against their party's narrative at all, they get booted out. We've seen that time and time again. So what I would love every community to do is look at the selection of candidates you have and pick the one that aligns with your morals and your values, what you truly want. Not everybody is going to agree with us and be all pro-freedom, right? But really, I think most people want to live in a place of relative love, peace, and freedom. If you really talk about what those words mean, I would say 99% of the population actually want that. So if you just look at the platforms and then watch the people that you're in your own community that are running, look at their social media, look at their messages, listen to their videos, listen to their words, look them in the eyes, go visit them, ask them questions. You're going to know, and pick the best person who gives a crap about the parties. The parties don't mean anything anymore.
Well, I want to vote for the person who's going to leave me the hell alone.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the parties are important to...
I don't even want to know that they're there. Let me put it that way.
Pretty much. I mean, most of us are self-sufficient that way, right? But I mean, like, the platforms are important too. I mean, the parties are a little bit important. I mean, if you're thinking in terms of, if you're going to compare like the Liberal platform to a New Blue platform, they're going to look completely different. New Blue is not going to want to keep doling out the cash like you can just keep printing it forever, right? Whereas a Liberal is very liberal with the money, right? So
yeah, exactly.
You do want to look at that too, but really, like, I think this election, it's very important to look at the candidate and pick the person that is going to best represent your community.
And speaking of New Blue, I have been speaking with Jim Carahalios, leader of the New Blue Party, and I think we're going to be able to get him on the program. We're just picking a day. I thought might happen even tomorrow, but I don't think that's going to be the case now. But he said he would.
That's awesome.
But I know he's super, super busy, and he's under constant well, he's in high demand right now, so he just has to find a slot for us. And guarantee you, when he comes on here, it'll be the best interview ever that he's ever done.
Absolutely.
So you have to watch it here.
Yeah.
So we'll try and find some new angles to make it interesting.
The thing about this news broadcast is you guys give the people the opportunity to actually speak and actually say something. Whereas, the debates and any kind of media and their questions, it's very tough. I don't know if you guys saw the CTV interview with Roman Baber. That gentleman kept cutting him off and interrupting him, and he kept he was all over him, and he wouldn't let him say the things that he needed to say. And it really bothered me because I was like, just let him speak. He has something to say. But CTV had their own agenda, and they wanted to paint Baber a certain way, and they wouldn't let him say what he needed to say to get his message out, what he represents and what he would do for the country, right? And it was really disappointing. Not that I was not surprised at all, but I was pretty grossed out by that interview for sure.
And speaking of someone who has something to say, this gentleman on the screen here had a few things to say. He's
we're talking
lefty,
a lot
right,
about
Brendan?
We're talking about how liberalism is a mental disorder, so we're gonna show that off here.
All right.
Whenever you're ready, we'll let her rip.
Brace yourselves, folks. You're in for one heck of a ride. Let her rip.
If we had a nuclear war, it would be worth it if it could just save one life. What? Imagine living in a world where people with selfish sides denying racist, transphobic, xenophobic, misogynistic bigots, where people actually supported democracy and took on their social responsibility. The only way to fight for our democracy is to get vaccinated while supporting Ukraine in the fight. And that is your social responsibility. Everybody! One of the people I look up to, who I've begun to love, is Klaus Schwab, and he said by 2030, you will own nothing and be happy. And I stand with him because I am not selfish! And those who stand against it are selfish! My closing statement, my only regret is that I didn't stop Breonna Taylor's killers. I still remember like it was yesterday. I was shopping at Target in the Pride section looking for a shirt for my 6-year-old openly gay transgender nephew after I got off work at Starbucks where I'm a barista. But at least I know that I was helping the LGBTQ community while Breonna Taylor was killed. Every night I lay on my pillow and I pray that Dr. Fauci will make a vaccine for white supremacy. I hate myself!
Thank you. That's your time. Appreciate it. Well,
I'm gonna take a knee for George Floyd.
yeah. Could you do that over there so we can get the next person? Thank you. Okay. If we could.
Can you do that over there so we can get the next person?
Wow.
So there's some talk saying that it might be satire or something like that, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, but
He seemed pretty emotional.
Yeah.
He seemed pretty emotional.
Half scream and half cry. I like they say it's fake. I don't know. I've seen that before. I've seen that in like leftist protests and stuff like that. I've seen that that weird scream cry thing in those individuals who
and liberals
get like that. Yes, they get. I mean, he could be a good actor, for sure. for sure. And maybe just trying to make a point.
Could be, but he reminds me of a guy. I used to own some retail stores, hobby shops, and I had one in London, Ontario, Canada, and I was in there on weekends working, and there was a hard left guy who would come. It was a downtown thing, so we get a lot of university students and such, and he was sort of a career student and lefty. So he would come in every weekend to just talk with me and talk politics. And so many times he would act very much like that. If you pushed the right buttons, he would have that kind of response, and he would get like just blow up because he gets so emotional. It is there is an element of mental illness that comes with that degree of devotion to what I think is a political religion, because they replace God with the state. And they don't even realize that they've been indoctrinated into essentially statism, which is kind of a religion, and it very much is. That's why all of these causes are things that if you don't support them, it's the equivalent to sinning. That's why if you don't get the thing in your arm, you're a sinner, you're a heretic. If you don't agree with them, well, you have to be cast out. There can be no room for dissent. You're a sinner. You can't be part of the collective. You must be shunned. That's what it is. It's like a religion. He was very much like that. So that could have been fake, but may very well be real.
Yeah, I would give it a 70 or 80% chance it was real.
But
Yeah.
we don't know.
I've seen people act like that before.
Yeah.
Well, look at when
did
people
that kid
showing
ever
up-
buy anything?
when you weren't supposed to be protesting, it was against the law because it was so dangerous to be outside. And then there was an anti-lockdown protest. And then who shows up to protest the protest that was dangerous? A protester who was pro-lockdown because it was important for everyone to stay home because you could die if you went out to protest. So they went out to protest. Remember? We
Yeah.
were there.
Yeah.
It was insanity. It just
Yeah.
shows how crazy they are.
Actually,
and they were losing their you know what.
I think a week or two before that, there was a woman that showed up too. She didn't have a sign or anything. She was walking by and she screamed at us like that and called us C words and all this stuff. And then she saw me going to my vehicle by myself, and she was screaming like that at me, like, and I was ready, but I wasn't scared because
And
you lift couches and stuff.
But, she was a lot bigger than me, taller and bigger and all of that stuff, but I didn't care because I knew what I was standing for. And, I just kept telling her to keep walking. I was like, I think you should just walk away and that kind of thing. But I was ready if she was going to come after me. And this might not be the right answer, but I'm not as good a person as other people. I will defend myself. So if somebody gets hurt attacking me, too bad for you.
Well, the sad thing is that the level of psychological damage is at such a level that there are people out there right now, I know, that are terrified because in their mind, this situation is out of control still, and the government is just allowing people now to just go about their business without masks, and they're afraid to go out. They're petrified. And so they're living in a psychological state that is not stable.
And I will always give somebody their space. I will always provide them with space. If they want to come up to me and have a conversation, if somebody wants a hug, by all means, I'm always up for that. But if somebody's getting very, like they're going to attack me or they're standoffish or something like that, I will give them their space. But if they invade mine and come at me, then we're going to have issues. But I mean, that being said, I will only do what's necessary to keep them off me. That's it. And I do understand. I do get that there's a level of mental illness. And unfortunately, there are some people out there that just want to mess with people and screw them up, right? So there's a level of that too, a level of, you know, what I would call evil. That's a very small percentage of the population, but yeah, and it's been too much, too long, and it's caused people to lose it a bit, and or a lot in some cases. And yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that as we continue to go forward and people see it's okay to be somewhat normal, like maybe it'll help put their minds at ease. But I don't think we can, like I said earlier, I don't think we can go back to this crazy amount of testing, like testing colds and flus, I think is going to create what that gentleman's going through, right? I don't like that. I don't.
Well, we ran that I did some people on the street interviews 2 days ago. You know, when the mask mandates were lifted, and you know, that one gentleman who was clearly terrified was you know, instantly wanted to give me an exam with my camera where the sun doesn't shine, just because I didn't even talk to him. He just instantly went there, right? And I'm talking to him, he's petrified.
What I don't understand, though, and I'm not trying to be a jerk here, guys. I've had this discussion with other people personally. I don't understand, if he's that scared, then why is he out? We don't need to. There's so many services out there. You don't actually have to be around people if you don't want to. And like, there's curbside, there's delivery services, there's all of those things. So if he's so terrified of people, then why
He was, you know what it was, what was apparent with him was he was neurotic, which is what the media does to people, because he was regurgitating talking points from the media. It was like, these PCs, he's acting like a Nazi, right? Which is to say that you want to get locked down more, but you don't want to get locked down because the guy's acting like an authoritarian Nazi. But at the same time, you're afraid of the mandates being lifted, so you really don't know what you're even saying. Doug Ford's a Nazi because he's treating everyone like an authoritarian, but you want the government to be more authoritarian and keep everyone locked down because you don't want anyone to have their freedom, because it doesn't even make sense.
No, it's actually a huge oxymoron, because if we keep all of the restrictions, the lockdowns, like everything, well, then nobody's going out, including you. So it helps nobody. And then the businesses fail. And, you know, we just live this way for the rest of our lives, and we can't do that. So
you got to get away from the mainstream media. They're driving people literally insane. Yeah. People are going crazy. They don't know what to believe anymore, where they engage in all this Orwellian doublespeak. The prime minister is a master with it. He says, we need to preserve your freedom by taking your freedom away.
Yeah.
Without saying it in exactly those terms, but that's what he's saying.
And then turns around and talks about defending the freedom of another country.
Which brings me to something else. We have video, and I want you guys to help me decide whether we should run it, because it sort of shows the other side of the story. It's very graphic. It is on YouTube. It has not been banned, but I guarantee if we run it, they will suppress this video once it is reshown, once it goes into rerun mode.
Yeah, it'll be
and they'll flag it because it's very graphic. It'll be age restricted for sure, and you'll have to click a link, like a special button that says that you want to see it. I think it's valuable to see it because it shows the other side of this whole Ukrainian conflict, the side that you're not on the Canada, US, Western NATO side. We're getting a lot of cheerleading, right? Pro-war stuff.
Yeah.
This shows the other side in Donetsk, where where the Ukrainian government, the Ukrainian military, has been bombing their own people and doing more than that too. But it's extremely graphic.
Oh dear. Well,
And it shows. I think it's important because it shows that by injecting ourselves into this as Canadians, by providing weapons and money, we're injecting ourselves into a civil war, which has been a big part of this issue. And it's something that the media doesn't even talk about here.
I think if you guys are willing to take that risk, then it's probably important for people to know.
Well, I mean, if people want to see it, well, guess I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah. So you tell us, folks. Do you want to see this footage? It's from a couple of days ago.
It's very graphic.
I stumbled on it, and I had to click some links to get around. Well, it's not to get around it, but YouTube has a block on it because it's so graphic. But it is on YouTube, so it hasn't been banned. But you have to click a link to see it. And if we run it here, the other thing I did, if it is taken down, I've made a copy. I preserved it. You couldn't even download it. You can't download this. It's prohibited. So I recorded it another way, but I have a copy. Just because I thought it was important to preserve it, because much of this kind of information is being suppressed, right? I believe in truth, and I've often believed that, especially with regard to war, we should be showing people unedited, uncensored videos so that they understand how horrific it is.
Yeah.
Because it's only that way that you end up preventing wars in the future. But a lot of people just can't stomach it and they don't want to see it.
Well, yeah, and then it's easy to say that. Let's see. It's easy to say that war is a good idea if you don't know what war looks like.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's easy to sit there and go, yeah, I stand with Ukraine because it's the latest thing. And yeah, we got to do everything. No fly zone, send jets. Okay, easy to say it, man. But send your kids. You want to send your kids to fight? No, I don't.
I don't want anybody involved. I don't want the people of Ukraine. I don't want the Russians. I don't want the Canadians, the US, no citizens. If these government officials want a war so bad, you go fight.
Ms. Jensky says, show it.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay.
Anyone disagree? Anyone want to stop me before I bring this up?
Somebody stop me.
I've often believed this, and that's why, Vietnam was sort of the first war that was brought into people's living rooms, and television played a big role in that, right? So anyway, here we go. Brace yourselves. I warn everyone, this is extremely graphic, so if you do not want to watch this, it gets more graphic as it goes on. This shows an area in Donetsk that was bombed by Ukrainian military because this is one of the two areas that has declared independence. And they asked Russia for protection because for the past 8 years, they've been bombed repeatedly and over 14,000 people have been killed by the Ukrainian military. And Zelensky has been continuing the bombardments and escalating them. This was a couple of days ago. This is what happened there. So again, if you are squeamish or just don't want to see this kind of stuff, I'm warning you now. Look away or something. Just you're not going to want to watch it. It gets more and more graphic as it goes on.
Just been hit by shelling, it seems. I'm not headed there. People are running through the streets, looking to see what has happened. Shelling has just hit the Donetsk. We see behind me here, all these stores have been knocked out.
And I can tell you that this is clearly real. This is not like some CGI fake thing, okay? You'll see. This is clearly not, this is clearly real. At times he turns the camera off, turns it back on, but it's largely unedited. These are civilians, not soldiers. And these are Ukrainians.
We see at least one injured man here, already in the hospital. You see that there's at least 2 shells that came down, one here and then one there. Children are running. And Center Donetsk has just been hit in a shelling attack. Donetsk is the capital of the anti-Ukraine government, Donetsk People's Republic. Ukraine had launched an attack on the civilian center. There's no military here. You see this a food carrying truck with vegetables in the back has been destroyed. We've already seen one man injured, put in the ambulance, bloody. Here's another civilian car hit. You see the ambulance? Here's another car. It's mayhem. These are civilians. Here's a city bus. A city bus hit. This is the center of Donetsk with a deliberate attack on the civilian area by Ukraine forces. A civilian bus with a man killed. Oh my God. Oh shit. Oh my God. Is this a military target? Ukraine has been decimating the civilian population here for 8 years. We count 6 bodies so far of civilians. Slow praise is slow. Huh? Slow praise is slow. Another civilian car. Their phone's ringing right now. Their family is calling to see if they're okay. They're not. 2 injured appear to be an elderly man or woman. That's 6 bodies we've seen so far. Oh my God. So we've seen at least 10 bodies now. This is a deliberate attack on the civilian population. Oh my God. Oh my God. They're doing it. The firefighters are here trying to save the injured. We see 3 injured, at least 10 dead, all civilians.
There were Ukrainian soldiers, apparently with one of the Nazi brigades. Apparently, they ran through here with guns and started shooting civilians.
Нормально. Почину зацепил. Есть намного хуже.
Я жива, я целая. Они такое творят, они нас убивают. Там девочка раненая лежит, у нее детки, она кровью истекает. Они нас убивают.
Кто стреляет?
Кто стреляет? Ну кто? Фашисты? Кто стреляет?
Кто?
Откуда я знаю? Я в машине сидела, начался обстрел. Я не знаю, кто они, мне не представились. Но не наши нас спасают.
Ага.
Спасают. Спасибо вам большое. Я домой к детям хочу.
Как ты? Как ты? Что вы снимаете? Извините.
Скорую лучше вызовите.
Где же скорая? Ну где же она?
О, май гад.
Ты далеко.
Скорее, скорее.
Сколько ранено здесь?
Много женщин, все женщины.
Почему, как вы думаете, почему украинские стреляют здесь?
Они хотят нас убить, они хотят всех убить. Мы не виноваты, мы мирные жители, они нас убивают.
Да нет, дело тоже, ешь.
Едем.
Скоро.
Едем.
Едет, скоро.
Надо. Ну не надо меня снимать.
Это прошли вот тут, по улице, и там по улице.
Рубин, я Рубин один пошел с машинами.
В каком интересе я могу обратиться? У меня
Сейчас, подождите.
В автобусе сколько?
В автобусе 4 и 2 в Ауди.
20, Ауди посчитали.
Ауди посчитали.
20.
Сколько?
Это ориентировочно.
Ну, понятно.
Можете сказать, сколько погиб?
14 мужчин. И ориентировочно 9 трехсотых.
Да.
14 мужчин и 6 женщин. Сколько у тебя?
Ориентировочно 9.
Рубин, я Рубин один.
Сколько скорых?
Скорых 10 работает, они больше не дают.
4
по максималу.
Скорые пока находятся на 3 часах. Так, что, я информацию выгружаю.
Ориентировочно 9 раненых.
Точку мы сфотографировали, отправили.
Правильно поняли, разведка дальше проводит.
01, я Рубин 05.
Это Горбач. Предварительно 20 погибших,
Ребят,
в том числе 14 мужчин, 6 женщин. 6 женщин, 9 пострадавших.
Щорса 27. Щорса 27 нашли, да? Щорса 27Б. Есть.
Там ориентировочно.
Как в других районах.
How can anyone say this is not a direct attack on the civilian population? Shelling civilians on any side of any contact line of any war is wrong. And this is a direct attack on the civilian population of Donetsk by the Ukrainian forces. There's no question, if, ands, or buts about this. This is an attack on civilian people on the center of Donetsk.
Парни, можно? Так, чуть-чуть.
Полчаса назад сюда пришли попадания в точку Ю, запущенные украинскими террористами.
Можно прочитать.
Что это?
Точка У.
Да?
Над Донецком сбили. Я как раз находился рядом, где погибли люди. Ее сбили, но она успела выпустить кассетные элементы. Много погибших людей, много очень раненых.
Ага.
Вот оказывали помощь, как могли.
Что на твоей руке?
Это кровь. Помогал людям перебинтованным.
Ага.
Гражданским.
Сколько умер?
Ну, я не знаю, я там видел человек 7. Говорят, что 20, я точно не знаю, не считал.
Ага.
Оказывал помощь раненым.
Ага. Може представиться себя.
Гвардии старший лейтенант Гришутин Андрей Владимирович.
Угу. And right now, we've moved on to the area right in front of the local administration building, the DPR administration building. And right now, right here, we can see what caused these explosions. This was perpetrated by Ukrainian forces on the center of Donetsk. This is a Tochka U, or NATO referred to as a Scarab missile. This held cluster ammunition. Over here, we can see part of what appears to be the ammunition. Over here, another piece of the rocket. And there is no chance that Ukraine did this not intentionally to hurt the civilian population here. This is a deliberate attack, no question, on civilians. We've seen over 10. I personally have counted 10 dead civilians, many injured. It's mayhem in the streets here because Ukraine is targeting civilians. Share this video so the world knows what's happening here in Donetsk. There's a lot more to come.
And suddenly, it's not quite so simple.
Everybody, that was your tax dollars at work.
In part.
NATO provided Scarab missiles. There you have it.
So when we send Canadian money, $500 million, and Canadian lethal aid, which is weapons, to assist one side in a conflict, we're participating in things like that. That's being done in part in your name. In our name, Canada is involved. Think about it. The media always covers wars like they cover a sporting event. Think back to the Kuwait invasion and the response from the United States and its allies. Think of how CNN covered that. I do all the time. They get their graphics out and they have their guys stand in their fancy studios. And they stand in front of their green screen and they point to it like the weather girl does, only it's where the tanks are moving on the map. And they treat it like it's a football game. And they keep score. Oh, and how is Vladimir Putin doing today? How much ground has he covered? How many more yards till he gets his first down? That's the way they cover these damn things. And then you get the politicians up there and they cheerlead and they all stand up and applaud like a bunch of seals. And they tell you that they're going to take your tax money and they're going to send it over there. And then they're going to take more of your tax money and give it to these big arms companies that manufacture these weapons, billions of dollars. And they're going to send it all over there. They're not going to send our people. They're just going to give it to the civilians so that they can run out into the streets in front of the Russian tanks with a machine gun. And we're injecting ourselves into a civil war so that, yeah, you know, we provide NATO provided missiles so that Zelensky can use them against other Ukrainians who are living in a part of Ukraine that has declared its independence and has asked Russia for its for safety, for protection. But the media doesn't tell you that. 2 areas there declared independence, and they've been shelled for the past 8 years. 14,000 people killed just like that. So now it's suddenly not so simple, and it's not so sanitary. Not quite so clean now, is it? And what do they show on the other side? Well, they show, you know, semi-sanitized videos of other parts of Ukraine and in West Ukraine being bombed by the Russians, which is just as horrific, except that what you see on the news isn't quite so graphic because they don't want to show you too many bodies because that turns people off too much. I know what the rules are when it comes to what you show on TV and what you don't, and you don't show the truth because the truth is just too much for people to take, especially when it comes to war. So they sanitize it, and then they sell it to you, and then they jam it down your throat today and tell you if you don't support it, you're a traitor or you're not patriotic. When there's been a clear off-ramp to peace through negotiation and conciliation, and they've refused to take it because they've got an agenda. And we've gone over that here night after night after night, and the politicians don't even want to explore it. The bureaucrats don't want to explore it. They've got their reasons, folks. They've got their damn reasons. And it's not to defend democracy, I guarantee it. What a joke. We have to defend freedom and democracy, coming from the leader of a frickin' country that has been turned into a frickin' dictatorship as he runs out and has peaceful protesters beaten, shot with rubber bullets, tear gassed, and on and on and on, and throws his political opponents in jail, jails pastors for crying out loud. Wake the hell up, Canada. What are we doing? What are we really supporting? And then the media ignores these issues like the civil war that's ongoing there. They tell you that there are no Nazis when there clearly are. Our deputy prime minister sits there and poses for pictures with real neo-Nazis, not even not neo-Nazis, but real Nazis right here in Canada holding a Nazi frickin' banner. What are we supporting? And what the hell is she really? Is she a liberal? I don't think so. I don't think so. You don't hold up a Nazi banner and hang out with a bunch of frickin' Nazis, real Nazis, Banderites, and then call yourself a liberal and tell your people in your country that we have to go over there to defend democracy when you're really just propping up a puppet. The whole thing is a goddamn joke. And as I said, you are a participant. We are all being injected into this thing. We're being used as economic cannon fodder. And I think they're doing it on purpose. They're destroying our economy. They're destroying our country. It's already freaking gone. What do you think you were looking at? That's real. And it's being done in part in your name. Do you think those people who got bombed, do you think the families of those people who are killed by that NATO bomb in Ukraine, do you think that they will forgive us? Is that right? That's what Justin Trudeau is doing. That's not just being used. These arms are not just being used against Russians. They're being used against some of the Ukrainian people and a part of the country that is at war with itself. You just don't understand, Canada, because you're not being told. We have to stop this, and it's easy to stop it. There is a solution. It's pretty damn simple. Stop having NATO and the Western countries push in there and use it as a toehold to poke the bear. Back the hell off. Let it stay neutral. That's not what they want, though, is it? No, they want conflict. They want a goddamn war. And they want it escalated. We're heading into World War freaking III over this. You want a nuclear war? That's where we're at. What the hell? And now our freaking prime minister makes a goddamn backroom deal with the devil to make sure he stays in power till 2025 so that this BS can go on indefinitely. By the time we get to 2025, there will be no Canadian flag anymore. There will be nothing left of this country. And if there is anything left of it, we won't have any respect anywhere. Because what we're doing is dark. God help us all for what we are allowing to happen. We are allowing it to happen. And all you brainwashed, left-wing, communist, fascist sons of you-know-whats better wake the hell up. You're helping for this to continue. And there's no need for it. It never had to happen.
You're damn right this never had to happen. And they won't show this anywhere. And for everybody's information, this comes from the YouTube channel Patrick Lancaster. I do recommend that you subscribe. He is on the ground in Ukraine, and it is worth looking at. So do check him out.
I've got a copy of that thing, of that video, and others, and I'm holding on to it, and I'll hold on to the other footage and everything else that I gather. And as time goes on, where needed, I will post it, repost it. People deserve to know. We need to know. That is truth. That's one side of the story that's not being told to Canadians, and it's not being told to U.S. citizens either. Too much damn cheerleading. Too many bombs. Too many efforts to change regimes. Too much arrogance. These damn politicians, they all need to go. We need a clean sweep. They all need to get the hell out of there. Damn elections, every one of them. If they were in, get them the hell out.
Remember, they all stood up and cheered. All of them. They
every
all
single
stood up. A full house of them. I knew there was a reason why I felt sick to my stomach as I watched them all sit there and cheer. That's what war looks like, guys. That's what war looks like. And it's never clean cut, like Rick said. It's never just a straight line. It's never that way. Read a history book. Watch a damn history movie. Watch freaking Braveheart, for crying out loud. It's like, that's what all those movies were about. Tyranny and how there is evil, and it's usually the kings. Trudeau thinks he's a king. And they all... do you really think voting in a conservative federal government's going to change any of this? They all stood up and cheered. What is with that?
Well, folks, the media used to report on this, and I came across this interesting tweet here from Candace Owens. If you could bring this up, it's kind of relevant
For the
to
moment,
what we're talking
I
about.
would say this, though. If you can donate to us, please do it. Because we have to bring you stuff like this. We need to make people aware. We need to wake people up. And I'm asking you all to share this, spread this far and wide. We're not apologizing for Putin. We're not. We're saying this war has to stop. And we're saying these kinds of wars have to stop. All of this crap that these politicians engage in, these governments, it's all crap. And they just feed us a line. It's marketing. They manufacture the consent with their propaganda. It's not so clean now, is it? And it's not so simple. These things never are. We're here to bring you the truth. This is an information war. That's why we are here every night, to get you closer to the truth. And I'm not saying that I have the truth, but we'll get you closer.
It's a piece of the puzzle that we would have never seen if it weren't for you guys. And people don't have, in all honesty, people don't have people are trying to live their lives. They're trying to go to work. They're trying to take care of their kids. I rely on you guys to get information. Yes, I see what the mainstream media puts out. I keep an eye on them. Of course I do. But I get to come here and watch you guys night after night and see a different piece of the puzzle. It's all pieces of the puzzle. Even what the mainstream media puts out, there's truth. There's bits of truth in it. You just got to pick it out. But you got to pair it with some real raw truth as well. And you can't believe just one side, one piece that you're being shown.
See, Nunn says, why are they attacking their own? He doesn't know.
No.
Their attack, it's an attack from Ukraine on Donetsk, because the country is divided. You have in the West mostly Ukrainian-speaking Ukrainians. And in the East, there's a lot of history behind this, but in the East, you have a lot of Russian-speaking Ukrainians. And in Donetsk and Luhansk, they've declared independence. They don't want to be part of Ukraine, and they've asked Russia for protection. And they said, if we separate, will you respect our independence? And Putin said, yes, we'll respect your independence. You can remain independent, and we will protect you from these attacks from the Ukrainian government. So the Russians came in, and they have been trying to protect those zones from these attacks over the last 8 years. And in that time, well over 14,000 people have been killed because the Ukrainian government, now under Zelensky, has been shelling that part of Ukraine constantly. It's a civil war. That's why.
So I have a question. If Putin's sole goal was to take over the Ukraine, why wouldn't he just claim those states then? Why wouldn't he just say, "Oh, if you want protection, you're mine now"?
because he doesn't want to occupy those areas. He's not interested in occupying them. He just wants, he's made it clear in his demands. He wants Ukraine to remain neutral. That is the core issue in all of this. And that has been the case even for the past 8 years. He has been consistent in that. Because after the fall of the Berlin Wall, NATO promised that they would not move 1 inch closer east to the former Soviet Union. And because when the Soviet Union broke up after the fall of the Berlin Wall, there were concerns that NATO might continue to expand, and then that would become a threat to Russia. And since that time, they have moved further east. And it's gone on and on. Mm-hmm. And Putin has been tolerating it, but continuing to say, you guys have to stop doing this. And now they're right up against his front doorstep in Ukraine. And in 2014, they had regime change there. There was the Orange Color Revolution. The CIA got involved. They put in their own man. And now they've got Zelensky as a puppet in there. And he's clearly westernized, and he's a puppet of the West. And they have this whole portion of the government and the military that is Nazified. They are Nazis. And they have history going all the way back to Nazi Germany, because a big portion of Ukraine supported Nazi Germany in World War II. Yeah. And they were given immunity to prosecution, even during the Nuremberg trials, by the United States government and the CIA at the time, because they were providing intelligence against the Russians. So these Nazi groups have continued to thrive and grow over all that time, and they're still embedded over there. They're still a big part of they have a lot of political power. And when we send arms over there, that's who gets them. NATO has actually trained these Nazi battalions. And they've NATOized the military over there. And we've given them Javelin missiles and other weapons. And we're right on Putin's front doorstep now. And he sees that as an existential threat to Russia, a threat to their sovereignty. That's why this is also complicated. But in reality, the solution is quite simple. De-weaponize Ukraine, get the weapons out of there, make it a neutral country. It's not under the control of Russia, not under the control of the West. They're sovereign, a country unto themselves, a buffer state. That's what he has been asking for. But the West has said, screw you. We get to do whatever we want. You don't get to tell us what to do, and you don't get to tell Ukraine what to do. But in reality, Ukraine isn't Ukraine. Ukraine is under NATO and Western control right now. That's why it's such a threat to Russia. And all this other BS is just it's just a game. It's just propaganda. It's not true. So the money, we send money. And in the course of setting all of this up, Ukraine has become probably the most corrupt country in the world. And all these politicians have been using it as a money laundering operation. And to get kids their plum jobs that pay like $1 million or $2 million a year with oil companies. You saw it with Hunter Biden. And then the media runs interference and covers it all up. It's a freaking joke. And why do you think that these politicians, and if you don't think that there are some Canadian politicians who have their fingers in the pot over there, think again.
Yeah.
Do you think they're just doing this in your name to defend democracy, or are they using your tax dollars to keep the gravy train running in the corruption country?
Yeah, I mean, by that definition, there's plenty of places in the world that need democracy. What makes Ukraine so special? It's the money laundering and the corruption.
And the easiest way to preserve democracy, or to make sure that there is democracy in Ukraine, is to make it a neutral country, to get all the weapons out of there and make sure that neither side has influence. Let the people determine their destiny as an independent sovereign state that is neutral. not pro-Western, not pro-Russian. What's wrong with that? Give me the downside to that one. And why won't they explore that? No, we have to fight. We have to send people. We have to send weapons and money, and innocent civilians from here should be encouraged to go over there and just grab a gun and go stand in front of a tank.
And they have.
Yep. How stupid
and so
is
what
that?
happens? What happens when this escalates? It won't be a boots on the ground war, will it? How does Russia? What's Russia's best method of fighting? They have their nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
They're not gonna go boots on the ground.
They
Well,
can't. They can't because
they won't in Ukraine, but they will on the U.S. or anything else that they deem a threat.
Yeah, but they'll use their nuclear weapons. That's their strength.
That's because they can't match NATO in conventional forces. They're not big enough. So if they're threatened, if we push up against there, he's much more likely to go nuclear than you think. Think of it. If the roles were reversed and you had a foreign army pushing up against Canada from, say, the United States, and you had nukes, or if the United States was being threatened because there was a foreign force ready to invade on the Mexican border, what do you think if there were a bunch of missiles down there, as was the case during the Cuban Missile Crisis? We saw that in the 60s. We came very close to going nuclear then. We're closer now. We've been down this road. We've talked about this, previous nights.
Yeah.
But Putin doesn't have the conventional forces to go up against all of NATO. So what's he prepared to do? He has technology to shoot down a lot of these incoming ICBMs and nuclear weapons that would be coming from NATO and the West. So he might, in his mind, think that he could survive a nuclear conflict. But if you're going to be overrun and your country's going to, if it's going to be gone, you're going to be bombed into oblivion, or you're going to have all these foreign forces come in and take over your country, a multinational force. What are you going to do? We need to back the hell off. We need to back off and fast. I'm sorry. Maybe, a lot of people don't want to hear that. It might not, be popular as people are kind of analyzing this the way they would a football game. I don't care if we lose. I don't care if we have to back down, because if it continues to escalate, everybody loses on all sides, and I don't want that to happen.
No, of course not. And this is nothing new. The media has been talking about this for 10 years. And in the story here, I'm going to bring up Candace Owens, who's a total boss. She received an email from the New York Times asking for comment regarding advancing ideas that Ukraine is a corrupt country, similar to Russian state TV. I replied informing them that I actually got the ideas from the New York Times. And here's the email. Hi there, I am writing from the New York Times. We're working on a story about Russian messaging that includes some of your comments. We note that you advanced the idea that Ukraine was a corrupt country, which match comments we've seen from Russian state media. I'm wondering if you have any context or further comment about this comparison. We're finalizing the story today. And she goes on to say, I'm very confused by this email. I learned about the idea that Ukraine was corrupt from the New York Times. You guys have covered the corruption of Ukraine extensively for years. As just one example, here's a piece from the New York Times editorial board entitled Ukraine Unyielding Corruption. I educated myself. Sorry, I got something blocking problem
about
in
the
Ukraine.
neo-Nazi problem in Ukraine and the unyielding corruption by reading a newspaper, not Russian state media. Is there something specific I said that was different from what you guys have written in the past? Thank you, Candace Owens.
Well, like I said, she's a total boss.
Yeah.
And she said, for more good measure, here are some more past articles written from reputable sources over the past few years about the corruption and neo-Nazi problem in Ukraine. For clarity, are you now suggesting that what the Western media covered extensively over the last few years is now just Russian propaganda? Are you suggesting all of these articles are sponsored by Russian state media? Again, I would love to provide you with a quote for your article. Just want to be clear regarding what you meant to say, that I am advancing ideas that Ukraine is a country...
Was a corrupt country when, in fact, I got my ideas from your publication.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, I really felt that was worth sharing because I've said the same thing multiple times. I said, where in the hell did the media do an about face? They've been covering what's been going on in Ukraine for the past 10 years. You can check it out. All the mainstream media has. The Ottawa Citizen, CBC, New York Post. Well, I could go on and on. Even Vice. Vice has been extensively down there. BBC. All of these things have been covering these corruption issues for so long. And then now it's like out of nowhere, it's like, she's absolutely right. Are these articles now just Russian misinformation? Is that what they are?
Yeah. And we've shown you that as well here. We showed you some documentaries and footage that was done by mainstream media, some years ago, back around 2015. We showed you a neo-Nazi camp for kids. Yeah, all of this stuff. It's very real, but it's bizarre how now suddenly there are no Nazis in Ukraine. It's all Russian misinformation.
Well, now we're just Russian stooges for talking about the same things that the mainstream media has been talking about for years.
Yep.
But the mainstream media relies on people's amnesia to put forth their... It's literally like 1984. It every time I think about the new news coming out from mainstream media and how it so very much contradicts what they just said, like, let's say 6 months ago, sometimes not even that long. A lot of times not even that long, but people just eat it. They just eat it up and they believe it and they buy it. And it's like, I remember in the book reading about how they would take press pieces and change them and redistribute them out in the world and pretend that that's what it said all along. Right? Oceania has always been at war with East Asia. It's just... I wish that people would remember their own memories, like what they know they saw with their own eyes, what they know they read, what they know that they watched, happen in front of them. But they don't. They just take in what the news is telling them and they eat it up. And it's like, no, just think for a second. Just stop and think about what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And question it for a second, because you saw something that completely contradicts that from 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago.
So I hope that by showing that footage, it helps. And I think that when you show truth, reality, it does help. Because how can you make
It's hard to watch. It's like I start to feel sick watching that. It's hard to watch, but I feel like I have to, because if I don't watch that, then I don't really know what's going on. And you can sit there and tell me that there's a civil war going on, but until I see those people being brutally murdered like that, it doesn't hit home. And then you see that and you're just like, oh my God, like, what if that was here? And those things really get to me, and it always has been that way. I've looked at what happens in Yemen, in those types of countries too, and I can only take in so much. But I can't make an opinion or judge or anything about what's going on in the world unless I see something real like that. And I won't believe really in my head that something that dark is going on unless I see it, like, to an extent, because, you know, here we are watching our own government applaud war. But something in the back of my mind, even though I don't know what's really actually happening, something in the back of my mind's going, just something doesn't feel right. And I wish people would view things like that. Like, why would you just trust those idiots anyway? Why would you just trust all those people standing up and, yay, war? Like, no, does that not raise a big red flag for you? Why would they be cheering that? No war is good. None. Not a single damn one. And again, if they would like it so much, then you go out there and fight. You go do it. Come on, Bergen. Come on, Polyev. Come on, Trudeau.
Yeah.
Come on, Freeland. You go out there, put a uniform on, grab a gun.
Yep.
They stay in their cushy little chairs with their stupid masks on.
I think it's absolutely hilarious that all these liberal morons who are like, there is no reason why anybody should have a gun ever. It is not allowed. It's illegal. Blah, blah, blah. And then Ukraine happens and they're like, we must arm every man, woman, and child.
Yeah.
Makes no
sense.
sense.
Exactly. And so, you know, take away all our guns, and then what happens if something like that goes on here?
Well, maybe I don't have to remind anybody here, but I'm going to anyway, that Canada is a vast country, and it has lots of wilderness, lots of things that will eat you if you don't have a gun, and there's lots of communities that live north of the United States border, unlike most of the country, which is at the border directly. And then a lot of these communities are also on subsistent living, so they eat what they kill often enough. So it's not only is it's a tool, it's a survival tool at the end of the day, and you can say what you want, but hunting is an important part of Canada.
Well, for those who still want to see the war escalate and believe that it's about preserving democracy in Ukraine, you can join the International Legion of Defense of Ukraine right here on this website. This is where you can go to sign up as a fighter from another country at fightforua.org.
Now, there is a commercial that goes with this, and oddly enough, I just watched a Paul Joseph Watson video before I saw the advertisement. I can't find the advertisement anywhere. While you were going off on the Rick rant, I tried to look for it, but couldn't find it. But in the Paul Joseph Watson video, it details explicitly many different people who have gone to Ukraine, and there's been all kinds of problems with people going there. So I found it very odd that I watched this video, and then after which I'd seen this Join Ukraine ad, which was despicable.
Did you want to run that Paul Joseph Watson video?
I'm not sure. It might be a copyright problem.
I think we're okay. It's on YouTube, isn't it? Isn't it being run on YouTube?
Yeah, it is on YouTube.
Okay. So if we run it, if it's on YouTube, we're okay.
All right, let her roll there.
All right, well, let's go. This is related to this ad that we just showed you, where you can sign up and show how brave you are and go fight for Ukraine and preserve democracy.
Remember when the media ran that PR campaign encouraging foreign volunteers to go and fight in Ukraine?
16,000 foreigners have joined in the fight on the ground in Ukraine. Over the weekend, President Zelensky called non-Ukrainians to come fight to defend Europe and the world, as he put it.
Let's check in on how that's working out. Spoiler alert, not very well. Of course, some of those volunteers, the ones with actual military experience, went to fight well prepared and with good intentions. But let's be honest, a lot of keyboard warriors made the trip with very different intentions. Get to the border, take a few selfies for Twitter dopamine, Instagram likes and Reddit upvotes, and get the hell out of there. We've seen this kind of moral exhibitionism already backfire in another sense. A third of Ukrainian refugees aren't coming from Ukraine. People are commendably opening up their homes to Ukrainian refugees. But when they arrive, getting, let's just say, not what they expected. Whoops.
D'accord, ok. Donc ça, vous me dites que c'est vous?
Oui, c'est moi.
D'accord, ok. Mais il y a combien de temps?
Ah, il y a longtemps.
Il y a longtemps?
Plus de 20 ans.
Ah oui, ça doit être il y a très longtemps.
Oops. And now for the volunteer foreign fighters. When this guy went public with what was really happening to many foreign volunteers, the media ran hit pieces smearing him as a right-wing boogaloo boy who just got scared and ran home. But it turns out he was telling the truth.
Our base got fucked up. The base right next to us got fucked up. Americans, British, tons of British dead. They're trying to send us to Kiev with no fucking weapons, no kit, no fucking plates. So they told us we had to get the fuck out of there. They were going to shoot us in the back. When you get to the border, anyone who has kit, anyone who has any military shit, they're fucking pulling you out of the line and they're sending you back to the front. People need to stop coming here. It's a trap. And they're not letting you fucking leave.
Presumably keen on feeding more Western dopamine addicts into the Ukrainian meat grinder. The media demonized the guy as a phony, but his story is echoed by others who made the trip, namely that foreigners who show up in Ukraine are being treated like cannon fodder, having their passports ripped up and totally ill-prepared being sent direct to the front lines, and then being told under martial law they won't be able to go home until the war is over, which could be weeks, or it could be years. Sky News reports that British man Ben Spann, with no military experience whatsoever, and without even telling his wife or teenage son, left for Ukraine, hopped up on media-contrived sanctimonious grandstanding to, quote, join the resistance. He actually ended up trapped in a squalid safe house for 5 days, no toilets, no running water, having AK-47s pointed at his head by a Ukrainian SWAT team, then fled to Poland as soon as possible, having realized that he'd enrolled himself on a, quote, suicide mission. Spann subsequently said that foreign fighters with no military experience attempting to enter Ukraine are actually, quote, more of a burden to the Ukrainian military. Really? And there I was thinking this literal real-life manifestation of a Soyjak meme would be combat ready in no time. Turns out playing Call of Duty in your student digs in between furious wanking sessions doesn't count as military experience. Who knew? Hundreds of members of the Volunteers for Reddit subreddit, yeah, Reddit bros, reportedly joined the Reddit Legion, traveled to Ukraine and were immediately shelled and shot by Russian soldiers. They were told by the Kremlin that they'd be treated as mercenaries and war criminals. Yeah, but dem upvotes though. Many of the Reddit Legion have no prior weapons training or combat experience, but their enthusiasm to post to other Reddit members about their mission to courageously kill Russian soldiers led to the location of their training camps being identified and then being killed by Russian soldiers. Whoops. They're sending untrained foreign volunteers to the front with little ammo and shit AKs, and they're getting killed. Yeah, but that internet clout, apparently many of them were deluded by Western propaganda about Russian forces being decimated, leaving Redditors vulnerable to the idea that they're joining some kind of hunting party and not an actual shooting war. Another British volunteer, 37-year-old Leon Dawson, was told by Ukrainian officials he'd just be a liability. We don't have the resources to train you. We don't have the time to train you either, they said. Another British volunteer, Carl Walsh, who volunteered as a medic, was assured by the Ukrainian embassy in London that he wouldn't be required to fight, and then ended up being told that his passport would be confiscated, he'd be given a paltry 48 hours training, and be sent straight to the front lines. Quote, "It's a death wish," said Walsh. French Foreign Legion veteran bluntly informed their group that, quote, 95% of you will be killed within days of arriving in Kiev, and persuaded them to get back on their bus and go back the way they came. Yeah, there may be a 95% chance of them coming home in body bags, but isn't that worth it for the 100% chance of making it to the top of Reddit? Some of these foreign fighters from the UK were so keen on letting everyone else know that they'd arrived that their cell phone signals, presumably in between checking who'd watched their Instagram stories, were picked up by Russian intelligence, who then used those signals to demolish the Yavoriv training facility in western Ukraine, killing 35 people. Whoops. Mercenaries who were contracted by the Wagner Group, a military company linked to Moscow, may have been operating nearby at the time of the strike, according to reports, and specialists fear they would have been able to pick up, locate, and target a concentrated group of British mobile phone signals and pass the information to Russian forces. Yeah, turns out that broadcasting the fact that you're in a war zone isn't quite as rewarding as broadcasting the fact that you attended a Black Lives Matter rally. Ben Spann admits, having abandoned his wife and son and leaving them in a harrowing state of anxiety, that he traveled to Ukraine in order to boost his own ego. And therein lies the point. Many of these volunteers don't really give a shit about Ukraine. They're dopamine-addled, socially engineered NPCs brought up on a steady diet of vacuous virtue signaling. But in 2022, virtue signaling just isn't enough. Anyone can add a Ukrainian flag to their Twitter bio. Now you have to be there. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, you have to get the selfie. You have to truly manifest moral exhibitionism. Are they brave for merely going in the first place? Maybe. You can't call them cowards. Are they stupid for thinking they can serve on the front lines of a hot war with zero military experience or weapons training? Yeah. They're definitely stupid. And who's to blame? Zelensky for immediately calling for foreign fighters to flood Ukraine with no proper system in place to vet or train them. The media for relentlessly amplifying the message because the can do no wrong darling Zelensky said it. The Biden White House for recruiting TikTok influencers who are now using their clout to poison young minds with dubious moral imperatives. But more broadly, cultural institutions, social media, and society in general. And we really do live in a society for rewiring the brains of young people to think that charity, which should always be private, should in fact be as public as possible, for exploiting the same brainwashing techniques that make people addicted to gambling and weaponizing them to incentivize very dangerous and sometimes deadly performative activism, all for likes, upvotes, retweets, and dopamine, all for the pointless prize of who can best demonstrate their moral exhibitionism, all in the name of what has become the ultimate and only virtue, who can best demonstrate their support for the current thing.
Has anyone ever asked for that before? You guys are really good history buffs. Has any, president or in a time of war asked other countries to just send civilians? Because they said that they wouldn't send, usually you ask for military, right? We need help. Please send us your troops. Has anyone ever asked for just civilians to come?
Well, historically, in a lot of situations, it's always that they create some kind of legion. So, I mean, like the French Foreign Legion. And they typically, what they would always do with these Foreign Legion groups is they would send them into hellholes. Because they didn't really care about them. They're not French citizens, so they don't care about them. So they send them to places to basically die. And if they
Operation
survive...
Human Shield.
Kind of, in a sense, except they'll send them to just
well,
hellholes.
You know, the most interesting thing is, you know who asked civilians to take up arms? Hitler.
Ugh.
You know who else asks civilians to put themselves in harm's way? Radical terrorist groups.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Here, strap this bomb on yourself and run over there and go give that guy a hug on the bus. And then blow yourself up.
It doesn't seem like a legitimate leadership request to me. And I'm not as well versed as you guys, but
Well,
I would say that our leaders here in Canada and in the United States have failed the people again by not standing up and saying, "Wait a minute, probably not a good idea. Maybe Canadians who are thinking of going should think twice and not do it."
In fact, Canada hasn't gone out and said that at all. What they have said is basically like, well, if you want to do that, go for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And clearly it's not safe over there. And these morons getting their dopamine fix once they get over there, it's killing them. The Russians are clearly using technology to spy on these people, and they're monitoring social media.
Well, there was an incident where some volunteers apparently had some cell phones, and by using them, they gave away their location, and of course, they ended up being shelled.
Yes, that's
because
what
they're
he said in the
idiots and
video.
they don't know what they're doing.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Look, you want to know why they never found Osama bin Laden? You know why it took that long? Because he didn't use any electronic communication devices. And so these kids go over there, and they're using their phones. Of course the Russians could pick up on it. The police can do that here right now. And I believe, Rick Walker, you have some experience with that.
Yeah. Well, we heard this week, too, from Scott, not this week, but last week, from Scott Ritter, military expert, Jeremy McKenzie. He's been in the military. And what did he say? Don't go. If you're thinking of going to volunteer to fight, don't go, because you'll end up killed. You'll be, and you said yourself, Brendan, like you pointed at what the Russians said, if you get captured, you'll be treated at best like a mercenary. You don't have the same protections as a soldier. No. If you get caught over there.
They said best case scenario, there'll be like a trial. But I doubt that'll even happen. I'm sure they'll just shoot them. But look, the Ukrainians aren't treating these people very well either. Because there's a whole process you have to follow. Like if you pull that website back up, there's a whole process you have to follow. And so essentially, if people are following this process and then you go there and they treat you like crap, point weapons at you, throw your passport in the garbage, that type of stuff, like, that's not good on them either. And the worst part is the media won't talk about it. Like, if you scroll down some more,
meet the foreign volunteers risking their lives to defend Ukraine and Europe. Yeah.
And Europe.
Join the International Legion of Defense of Ukraine. If your citizenship is other than Ukrainian, but you are standing with Ukraine against the Russian invasion, if you want to actively participate in fighting for European freedom and democracy, if you have combat experience or want to gain it standing with brave Ukrainian defenders, now it is time to act. Join the International Legion of Defense. Detailed guidance is below. Full support is provided. Vital experience is guaranteed. Visa requirement is canceled. Temporary from 1st of March till the end of martial law. Presidential decree number 82/2022 or something. Freedom is a choice. Join the brave. Come to Ukraine and die.
There it is. There's everything you need. There's a whole process for it. But it seems to me like they should be turning all these people away. But they're telling them to go to Ukraine anyway. And then they're getting thrown into rather unfavorable situations. And oddly enough, there's a donate button on the bottom of it, which I also found messed up.
19,000 daily visitors. Average age, 32. And 38.7% going directly to this website. 706 visitors from Canada, 3,311 from the USA, 366 from Mexico, 14,000 Russian visitors.
Huh.
So I guess we have 14,000 Russians who are considering signing up to go fight against Russia. Interesting. 190 from Australia, 1,500 from Brazil, 216 from Argentina.
That's Russia again.
Yeah.
And look, you could donate to Ukraine.
To the Ukrainian, donate to the Ukrainian army.
Ooh. I think
Is $500 million in our tax dollars not enough? Apparently not.
I guess not. I so wish I could find a commercial for this because it was like, what the hell? It was clearly like pointed at me like demographically. Like I'm 32, for example. It's like it's hunting down 32-year-old males. Come join Ukraine army.
And you notice the way that they're spinning it? It's like to defend democracy in Europe. Because, of course, they're portraying this so that the narrative is that Putin is a megalomaniac who is interested in taking over all of Europe. So it's a good thing that we're standing against him now, because if we don't, he'll be in Berlin next. He'll be right in the heart of Germany and France. Poland, the United Kingdom will fall. I don't think that's what we're looking at, honestly. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't get that sense at all. So, yeah, my son is of fighting age, and I'm going to tell him it's probably not a good idea to go if he's thinking about it. He hasn't said anything, but I might try to nip that one in the bud.
Good idea. Tell him to watch the show. The whole can of worms there.
Well, I'm just, no, it's not that. I just can't believe that we're in this place, guys. And there's just so, I mean, they talk about misinformation, right?
That is the biggest load of it I've ever seen.
I hate to say it, but I just don't believe our government. I don't believe our media. I don't really believe everything I'm seeing coming out of Russia either.
Why would you?
No, of course not. But
why would you start believing them now?
No.
Why would they start telling the truth right now? They've been lying to us for how long? Like I haven't been paying attention long enough, but I started paying attention before COVID. When Trudeau got elected the first time around, that's when I kind of started to pay attention. A friend of mine alerted me and he said, you know, Liz, you have kids, you need to start paying attention. And the lies are just crazy. Like, it's crazy, but you have to actually pay attention to catch them, because they'll say one thing one day and then they'll totally contradict it the next day. And you have to remember what you heard the day before in order to catch that. And so me catching all of these half-truths, outright lies, or twists that they like to put on things, why would I start believing now? Why would I, like, every time I've fallen for it. There's been, you know, these big news stories where they make you feel just awful about a situation. And, you know, everybody seems to join hands and, you know, join together for this cause or whatever. And then you come to find out it was all BS. And it's like, that can only happen to me so many times before I smarten up. And, you know, when something big comes up, it's like, okay, well, what's really going on behind the scenes now? Because I know I can't trust what's right in front of me. I know that much.
Yeah.
So, like, why would
as we showed you, right? We just showed that to you.
Yeah, like, that's what I've been wondering. I'm like, with all of the, you know, the phones out there and the people with video cameras and things like that, like, there's got to be something, right? I know I've tried to look for the other side of things, but it's hard to go through all of the information and find it. So, I mean, I'm grateful to have you guys to be able to come and watch and and get a different take on things. Does it validate Putin? No, it does not. Anytime you kill people, that's bad. But it helps you understand that they could have avoided it.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
what we think our money is going to, and the weapons that we've taken from our own country, and now we're in a situation where we can't do that anymore, right? We're basically at our limit. You know, like, we thought that was going for a certain fight, and now we're seeing that wasn't the case. It's not going to where we thought it was. So if that's happening,
did Canadians vote for that in the last election? No, I don't think so. And did Justin Trudeau ask Canadians if we wanted to send weapons? Did he ask you? Did he ask you guys? He didn't ask me.
Well, I was out to tea with him the other day, and he asked me, and I said no.
Well,
no, I'm kidding.
You know, well, you know, I guess we did vote for him, or somebody did. I didn't vote for him, but somebody must have, and I guess he now has the authority with about 33% of the Canadian voting population supporting him, about a third. So I guess he gets to send as many weapons over there as he wants.
He uses that language against us, you know. He says, this is what Canadians voted for.
Mm-hmm.
They had their chance in the last election to decide how we were going to, these are his words, to decide how we were going to move forward in this country. And they made up their minds. Yeah. So by saying those things, it's a way of putting that into people's heads that, well, this is what Canada wants. This is what we voted for. It's so messed up. How did these guys learn to do this manipulation, this psychological manipulation of masses? Where do you learn that? The WEF school. That's right.
That's right. Yep, that's right. You hit the nail on the head, I think.
Yeah.
I think you did. And that's why it is an information war. That's why, again, we need to keep on doing what we're doing. And that's why we need your help here at freedomreporters.com. Please, please, please consider donating to us to help us keep the lights on and pay the bills here as we continue our work and continue to expand our coverage and reach out or expand onto other video platforms, which is what we're doing. And there are expenses involved with that. And also to get some reporters back out into the field so that we can provide some perspectives on Canadian and U.S. stories that way. We'll hopefully be checking in on the Freedom Convoy down at Hagerstown Speedway and around the Washington, D.C. area tomorrow. We also will have Kyle Kemper on, Justin Trudeau's half-brother, to talk about his book, The Freedom Movement, the coalition government that has been formed between the NDP and Justin Trudeau's Liberals, and other issues surrounding the governance of this country and Kyle's ideas, which he has outlined in his book, but we're going to get to him to expand on his ideas on ways that power can be given back to you, the people. He has some very interesting and valid ideas to share with us in that regard. He was supposed to be on with us tonight, but as we all learned, he wasn't able to make that happen. So he will be here Friday, a little after 6 p.m. We go on the air at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we are still very excited to have him on the show. I just think that's going to be a great conversation. And with that being said, I am going to throw it over to my co-host and our special guest, the incomparable Liz Vallee, to kind of wrap up with some of her final thoughts for tonight.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. I really want people to take a couple of days to take a step back and really, analyze what's been going on. We've been hit with so much over the last couple of years. I hope that you guys realize how bad this coalition between the Liberals and NDP is. They now have a majority government. And I didn't envision myself getting too political tonight, but they have the majority government now. They have the power. They can do whatever they want now. They can pass any laws they want, any legislation they want. They can bring in the Emergency Act anytime they want because they have the votes to do it. So I don't think the average person understands how dangerous and how awful this is. And if you're sitting in a pretty okay place, career-wise, financially, you need to start thinking about that, and you need to start protecting yourself and think about where your assets are, where your investments are, and protect yourself. But you also need to start, if you haven't already, you need to start speaking out and speaking up. Now is not the time to be silent anymore. Many of us were, because we were just kind of taking in what was going on around here. And, there were a lot of question marks. But you're seeing it day after day after day that these people who are supposed to care for us and lead us are lying to us outright. And there's so much information that's coming out that's proving that on a daily basis. So take some time and reflect and figure out what it looks like for you to start protecting yourself and your family, and start talking about it. Start talking about these lies. Start talking about what's actually going on. Show people some information. Don't be shy about it. Because a lot of times when you present something, people, they just don't know. They just don't know. They don't get to see it. So if you can show them, they will start to look at it themselves. And it'll snowball from there. And perhaps they might watch this show and get even more information. The more you can take in, the more you're going to be prepared. I don't want to see people get blindsided and not be prepared for what's coming, because with those two parties in power, we are in so much trouble. So much trouble. If you don't want to believe me, I mean, I've been telling people this for 2 years now. Well, not quite, but close to it. If you don't want to believe me, then there's not much I can do about that. But if you really start listening and really start paying attention to the language that's being used and to what's actually happening in front of your eyes, and don't forget in 2 months what actually happened right now, you're going to start getting hit with some hard truths. But people like us three here, we actually care what happens to you. So you will have people like us here with open arms, ready to help and support you. I think that's how I'll leave it.
Brendan?
Well, I certainly won't be able to top that. I am currently out of gas and going to go roll into bed to die. So there is that, but it was worth suffering through and heavily medicating myself enough to be here this evening. I will be doing the same again tomorrow. But for the meantime, stay safe out there, because, man, it's crazy. I'm Brendan Kennedy, the co-host of Maverick News, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
And I'm Rick Walker, also with Maverick News, and tomorrow morning, I know what I'm doing. Off to the appliance store to get a cardboard box. Message if you have any last words tonight, Brendan. I'll check my inbox in the morning.
Please donate to freedomreporters.com, because the more you donate, the nicer box I get. So
that being said, we do need your help. So, yeah, seriously, consider supporting what we're doing here. It is an information war, and we're on the front lines here. And that is the truth. And I'm Rick Walker, reminding you to come back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here on the Maverick News Channel. We are the Freedom Reporters. We are the antivirus program for your mind. Catch you on the flip side.